Good evening. I would like to begin with the land acknowledgement. The West Hollywood Planning Commission acknowledges that the land on which we gather, and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood, is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrielino Tonga and Gabrielino Quiche peoples. The time is 6:34 p.m., and I would like to call this regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting to order. And now we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll lead us in the pledge this evening. Thank you. Secretary Gillig, may we please have roll call?
Good evening, Commissioners. Commissioner Solomon.
Here.
Commissioner Matos.
Present.
Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Hoopengarner.
Present.
Commissioner Carvalero.
Here.
Vice Chair Gregoire.
Here.
Chair Lombardi.
Present.
And we have a 7-member quorum.
Okay, thank you. Item 4, approval of the agenda. Would anyone like to move approval of tonight's agenda?
I move approval of the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by the Vice Chair and second by Commissioner Jones. Okay, thank you. And because we have a lot of members of the public out here, I just want to remind you all that we do have a consent calendar item. If you did, for any reason, want to speak on item 8A, which is the Capital Improvements Program, you can do that during public comments, general public comments, which are at the beginning and end of tonight's meeting.
Thank you. And just for the record, the agenda was approved as presented unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, item 5A is approval of the minutes from May 15th, 2025.
I'll move approval.
Motion by Commissioner Matos and seconded by the Vice Chair.
And the motion passes, noting 5 ayes, and Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Carvalero abstaining from this vote, approving the minutes as presented for May 15th, 2025.
Thank you. Item 6 is public comments. As noted, this is an opportunity to talk on item 8A. Are there any public?
Chair, I have one public comment here in chambers that is signed up, Stephanie Harker.
Okay, thank you. Please state your name and city of residence.
Good evening, Commissioners. Stephanie Harker, City of West Hollywood. A couple of things. Something I was just reminded of when we did the land acknowledgement. I think it's time that we do something substantive about acknowledging what we did to the residents here, the original inhabitants. Somehow the acknowledgement seems, like, yeah, we're telling you what we did to you. But, why don't we find out what the trail name was for Santa Monica Boulevard and rename it? Really acknowledge the people who did live here on this land. Just an idle thought. But I wanted to bring up something that has been brought to my attention, that we're all talking about housing, which is great. We want to house people, even though we do not house the homeless. We've had a little over 100 on our count in West Hollywood for the last number of years, and none of them seem to have been housed. And downtown LA, as you know, there's around 100,000 people on the streets. Are we building housing for them? I don't think we are, and perhaps we need more mental institutions and drug rehab programs to be built in the interim so that they do have someplace to be housed and take care of the issues why they are on the streets. But I have recently gotten not 1, not 2, but 3 announcements from West Hollywood Community Housing Corporation reminding people to sign up and apply for one of their buildings. I believe it's in the Westlake area in Los Angeles, they seem to be having trouble getting applications, which is odd to me, because we certainly know that there's a 3,000 waiting list. They're asking people to please put their names into the lottery. And I'm confused by that, except for one thing. These buildings are being built with no parking, with the blessings of the state and the city, the county. But it makes it difficult for people who don't have a car. That'd be great. But it makes it difficult for people who do have a car, who use it to take their kids to school and to work their 1 or 2 different jobs on their low income. But I find that curious, don't you? That they are asking people to please. There was the third one was a reminder. Please don't forget to apply for this when we have 3,000 people on the list. So maybe we need to look again at our future planning with no parking and see if we have enough people to fill places that don't have to go any, people to live there who don't have any way else to get around. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chair, that is our last public speaker we have for this general public comment item.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to item 7, the director's report.
Good evening, Commission, Chair Lombardi, Vice Chair Gregoire, members of the Commission. My name is Jennifer Alkire. I'm the Acting Director of Community Development, and I have a little feedback. Hopefully, can you still hear me? If I back up, okay. Since our last meeting on May 15th, we welcomed a new current and historic preservation planning manager, Saima Qureshi, to the city of West Hollywood. Saima's finishing up her 3rd week here in WeHo, and we're so grateful to have her. Saima's been a professional planner for more than 25 years, and she was most recently with the city of San Marcos, but we're super excited to have her here in West Hollywood. I also wanted to acknowledge and thank Doug Vu, Antonio Castillo, and Garen Yalis for their work as acting managers. They took turns over the last 7 months since I stepped into the assistant director role, and the division has been in very good hands, and I'm extremely grateful for their work in that capacity. The City Council held a meeting on May 19th, and on that agenda, the Council heard a zone text amendment for development agreement noticing. The Council opted to move forward with neighborhood meetings for development agreement projects, but didn't make a change at this time to mailing radii for those projects, and staff is directed to bring more information back for further discussion, and we will report back to you if there's any changes on that. And finally, regarding upcoming council agendas over the summer, the Community Development Department only has a few items coming up on the next couple of council agendas. On Monday, June 9th, which is this coming Monday, there is a Metro update on consent. The agenda is out now if you'd like to take a look at that. And then on June 23rd, the council will be hearing a zone text amendment for EV charging stations, which the commission reviewed a couple of meetings ago. And also of note, on June 23rd, the council will be discussing and deciding on the operational budget for fiscal year 26. So that's something to keep in mind. And that's all I have for updates. If you have any questions for me, I'm here.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Solomon?
You mentioned the council item on the noticing for projects with a DA, and that they requested more information to come back. Does it come back through us, or does it go straight to council?
It would go straight back to council. Any major changes to the ordinance language could potentially come back to Planning Commission, though.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Item 8A is our consent item, the Capital Improvements Program for fiscal year 2026 to 2030. There is a resolution included, so we do need to do a formal vote on this consent item. And I believe staff also has an update to the resolution that went out today. Is there anything else the staff would like to add?
Nothing from staff, Chair Lombardi.
Okay.
I'll move approval of the consent calendar item with the updated memorandum from staff.
Okay,
I will
thank you.
second.
Motion from Commissioner Matos and seconded by Vice Chair Gregoire. Sorry. I'll try to look next time.
And Chair?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mine is slow today, or maybe it's me. I'm not sure which.
And the motion passes unanimously with 7 ayes. This is approving resolution number 25-1607. There is no appeal process. This is an item going forward to the City Council.
Thank you. Item 9, public hearings, Section 1, subject to the Housing Accountability Act. We have no items. That brings us to our first hearing of the evening. So item 10A, these are other items that require public hearing under law, and 10A is 8020 Santa Monica Boulevard. This hearing to request to demolish all existing structures and an existing service station and construct a new 2,000 square foot commercial building with 2 tenant spaces, as well as alcohol sales. And we will now lead with the staff report. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And good evening, Chair Lombardi and members of the Commission. My name is Roger Rath. I'm an associate planner with the Community Development Department. And tonight I'm presenting a request to redevelop the existing Shell service station at 8020 Santa Monica Boulevard. The proposal includes a new 1-story, 2,000 square foot commercial structure with 2 separate tenant spaces, a convenience store offering off-site alcohol sales, and a cafe/restaurant use with an outdoor dining area. The project also includes a redesigned fuel canopy with 12 pumps, improved site circulation, enhanced landscaping, and new pedestrian connections. The presentation will take approximately 8 to 9 minutes. If this thing moves. There you go. The project site is located at the southwest corner of Santa Monica Boulevard and Laurel Avenue. The area is characterized by a mix of commercial and residential uses. Directly north is a recently approved 7-story mixed-use development. To the south is a 4-story residential building. Erzberger sits across Laurel Avenue, and to the west is a 1-story commercial strip with local shops like a florist and dry cleaner. The project is within a CC1 zone with a mixed-use incentive overlay. As you can see, the existing site is very utilitarian in nature, designed in the late 1960s, and has not changed since other than signage. It includes a small 240 square foot kiosk, 8 fuel pumps under a basic canopy, and minimal landscaping or pedestrian amenities. Also, the driveways are wide and dominate the frontages. From the aerial image, you'll see that the site is mostly paved with only a small amount of green space. The 4 wide driveway openings and the current layout are mostly focused on vehicle access with minimal room for other uses. So this project was submitted on October 26, 2022, and deemed complete on November 10th, 2022, before ordinance number 22-1190 took effect. That ordinance limits fossil fuel station uses. Therefore, this project is reviewed under the rules that were in place at the time of the completeness. This includes the former service station standards, which the project meets. The new site design includes several improvements, reducing the number of driveways from 4 to 2, adding a fuel island for a total of 3 station islands, increasing landscaping to over 3,700 square feet, and includes 2 EV charging stations. The project will provide a total of 8 new canopy trees on site, in addition to preserving existing landscaping at the rear. In the public right-of-way, new street trees will be added and maximized in coordination with the city's street and parkway improvement plans. The new building has 2 tenant spaces, a convenience store and a cafe, with the cafe oriented towards Santa Monica Boulevard and outdoor seating available. There's also a walkway along the building to connect both entrances and improves pedestrian access from Santa Monica Boulevard. Sorry, it appears I lost my connection. I think I had to reshare. So the new canopy features rusted metal cladding and a curved corner to help define the corner of the site. This version was revised in response to the design review subcommittee feedback, which asked for a more cohesive look with the main building. The design draws from mid-century and Route 66 styles, creating something functional and visually interesting. This is the new one-story commercial building. It contains 2 separate tenant spaces, as I mentioned, one for the convenience store and one for the cafe. They will operate independently but share a pedestrian walkway that runs in front of both spaces. The building is located along the front property line, and there's added landscaping throughout the southern edge to help screen it from the residential building next door. The project meets all development standards that were in place when the application was deemed complete, including heights, setbacks, floor areas, parking, and landscaping. No variances or special exceptions are being requested. The project fits within the requirements of the CC1 zone and the previous service station regulations in place, again, when the application was deemed complete. The applicant is proposing 24 hours operation for the service station and the convenience store. Any activities between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. would require a separate extended hours business license from the Business License Commission. The cafe is expected to operate within 6 a.m. to 2 a.m., and the outdoor dining would close by 11 p.m. each night. The project includes conditions to minimize any impacts on nearby neighbors. For noise, no outdoor speakers or music are allowed, just an intercom at the fuel pumps for communication. There's also a 6-foot wall along the back of the property with landscaping added to help provide a buffer for the residential building next door. For alcohol sales, beer and wine can be sold from the convenience store only. The convenience store staff will need to verify IDs, follow alcohol display rules, and refuse service to anyone who appears intoxicated. No alcohol is allowed to be consumed on site or in the outdoor seating area with this entitlement. And for outdoor dining, the patio is located along Santa Monica Boulevard, more than 100 feet away from the nearest home. It's separated from the rest of the site by landscaping and a raised curb. Alcohol, again, is not served in that area. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt resolution number PC 25-1605, which approves the project permits and finds it exempt from CEQA under the Class 32 infill development exemption. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any question, and the applicant team also has a presentation that they would like to share. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do my colleagues have any disclosures to make? Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, I had a call with the applicant's representative, and we discussed items contained in the staff report. Specifically, I had questions for him about some of the condition requests for hours. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Solomon?
I also spoke with the applicant's representative on the phone and spoke about items on the staff report, mainly as it relates to the vesting of what was the ordinance and what is the ordinance now.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you. Design review or SASE in this case, design review subcommittee update. There were items included within the staff report. So I don't know if any of my colleagues that are on the design review subcommittee wanted to add anything at this time. Commissioner Hoopengartner.
I think the staff report did a pretty good job of covering all of the things that we discussed. It appears that the applicant has taken on board almost every one of our recommendations and discussion. I'm not sure if there was anything that we missed.
That's how I feel too. Okay, sounds like we all agree. Great, so now we can move on to the applicant's presentation. Please approach the podium and you will have 10 minutes to present. And please state your name and city of residence. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Lombardi, Commissioners. DJ Moore, resident of the City of Los Angeles, here on behalf of the applicant. And my understanding is that there's a little bit of an internet lag today, so if you bear with us, hopefully it will work, but we will try our best. To begin, we support staff's recommendation for approval tonight and would like to thank staff very much for your thorough report, as well as the Design Review Subcommittee for its feedback several months ago. Tonight, we'd like to spend just a few minutes walking you through some key elements of the project. Next slide. The existing service station has been in operation since at least 1983, before the city was incorporated. The applicant acquired the site and the existing structures in 1986. Since then, various tenants have occupied the site. As staff mentioned, it's currently a shell. Our client started exploring options about redeveloping the site actually way back in 2021 with staff. So tonight is really a culmination of a very long-term planning effort and a lot of close collaboration with city staff. Next slide. Staff walked you through the vicinity, so I won't repeat that again, but here is the site on the corner of Santa Monica and Laurel. Next slide. And here's a view of the existing structures on the site. The pumping stations are located under a canopy in approximately the center of the site. And as staff mentioned, there's a small walk-up kiosk space. It's toward the southeastern edge of the property, which is not easily accessible for pedestrians, if any of you have been there. Next slide. This is another view from Santa Monica. As you can see, and staff mentioned, there's minimal landscaping. Primarily, the site is paved to the property line on all sides. Next slide. The applicant proposes to modernize these facilities, provide for more pedestrian activation along Santa Monica, and provide substantial additional landscaping that will meaningfully improve the site compared to existing conditions. Do you guys, Tech, do you need something? David, sorry. Is it working? It's working? Okay, great. So I'd like to now walk you through several goals that drive the proposal. First, providing a reconfigured and upgraded station experience. Second, providing expanded fuel offerings, including by installing EV charging stations that will help the site transition to the EV future. Third, activating the pedestrian realm around the site. And fourth, providing additional shade and enhancing aesthetics by increasing landscaping on and around the site. Next slide. To orient you, here's the site in plan view. Note the 4 driveway entrances and exits that are all shaded in red. The fuel canopy is outlined in yellow and the kiosk space in blue. And here is our proposed site plan on the next slide. We'll examine each of these components in detail, but want to point out a few key features. First, the customer space has been substantially expanded to include both an indoor convenience store area with substantially more offerings than exist in the space today that is really only provides enough room for one person if you've been in there. And then an adjacent cafe and retail area with outdoor dining that will help activate the pedestrian realm on Santa Monica and provide a neighborhood food offering like a deli at an accessible price point. The building has been located along the western edge of the site with direct access from Santa Monica that makes the rest of the site able to be used by vehicles and reduces potential safety conflicts. You'll notice that the fuel canopy is slightly larger and unifies the site. And finally, the driveways have been reduced from 4 to 2 to minimize pedestrian conflicts. Next slide. Starting with the customer space, as you can see here, this is the 240 square foot kiosk that only offers limited services to patrons in the neighborhood and does today offer off-site alcohol sales. As I mentioned, you have to walk through the site to access the kiosk, which is not pedestrian friendly. Next slide. The proposal would develop an expanded facility to better serve the neighborhood. The convenience store component would be 1,000 square feet, over 3 times the current size with expanded offerings. Next slide. Here's another view of the building facade, incorporating a rusted metal cladding that extends from the facade itself and is also now reflected in the service station canopy. Next slide. The facility totals 2,000 square feet in size, divided between the 1,000 square foot convenience store area and, as I mentioned, the 1,000 square foot cafe space that includes outdoor dining on the Santa Monica Boulevard frontage. Next slide. Here's a rendering of that outdoor seating area. All seating is proposed to be located within the property line to help activate the pedestrian realm. Next slide. Based on feedback from the subcommittee, the applicant has redesigned the planter and bollard area to increase visual interest while providing protection and minimizing potential tripping hazards from the seating areas to the sidewalk. Next slide. And here is an image of the existing fuel canopy with a fairly plain, familiar roof. Next slide. The applicant had first proposed this redesign of the canopy, which featured more modernized materials and a sleeker shape, but the design review subcommittee requested the canopy be revised to enhance architectural interest and provide a more cohesive design with the building. Next slide. So we responded to this feedback by substantially revising the proposal and incorporating unique architectural elements that are reminiscent of a ship's bow that projects towards the Santa Monica Laurel intersection, both increasing visual interest and creating continuity in materials and shape with the proposed building facade. Next slide. And here's just a better view of the revised proposal, which is, again, a modernized upgrade using contemporary glazing and materials while incorporating the same rusted metal cladding on the building. Next slide. The height of the canopy is 26 feet at its highest point. The building itself is 21 feet. These are both well within the 35-foot maximum of the community commercial zoning. Next slide. As I mentioned, we are incorporating 2 EV charging spaces into the facility. These will have dedicated parking spaces on site, and one will be ADA accessible as shown here. The charging stations are in the rear of the site to comply with safety standards. Next slide. As I mentioned, we are enhancing the pedestrian realm here. Shown here is the sidewalk when viewed from Santa Monica looking south. There are large concrete aprons on both Santa Monica and Laurel with 4 driveway entrances. We've reduced them to reduce potential conflicts with pedestrians. Next slide. And here is the revised proposal. The 2 driveways closest to the intersection have been eliminated, allowing for a substantially enhanced and a safer sidewalk experience with new landscaping. Turning to landscaping, next slide. As we saw before, there's very little landscaping on the site. Next slide. Under the proposal, significant new landscaping would be provided along both sides of the sidewalk, as well as along the southern boundary to provide important screening for the residential building located to the south on Laurel. Next slide. Drake elms will be incorporated along Santa Monica Boulevard, while Australian flame trees will be on Laurel, consistent with the existing streetscape plans provided to us by Public Works. Desert willows and coastal live oaks will be located at the southern edge of the site in native soil to create a green buffer between the site and the residential building, something that does not exist today. Next slide. This rendering is looking back at the southern property line more closely. There's an existing concrete masonry wall that will remain in place, and we will add creeping fig vine and Boston ivy to enhance the appearance and plant trees on the inside station side of the wall to provide the screening that I mentioned. Next slide. And now we're going to give you a fly-through animation. Hopefully it works with the internet, and show you how these components fit together. Great, next slide, please. Oh, still chopping. There we go. City staff has recommended you find the project is exempt from further environmental review under CEQA's Class 32 categorical exemption, which applies to infill development projects. Construction will be between 9 to 12 months and involves substantially less construction than typical projects in the city that require subterranean development and associated excavation and hauling. Minimal excavation is required, and there's nothing unique about the development of this site that would cause adverse impacts to neighbors. As the staff report explains, the project meets each of the requisite criteria to qualify for the exemption. Next slide. In summary, we're seeking a development permit, a demolition permit, and a conditional use permit to continue operating the expanded service station, a conditional use permit for the continued off-site sale of alcohol, and an administrative permit for the cafe space on the Santa Monica Boulevard frontage. Last slide. The applicant is very excited about the opportunity to upgrade this existing station site to continue to serve the neighborhood and the community with improved offerings. We thank you very much for your time this evening. We have a team here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant or staff, or do we want to hear public comment first? Commissioner Jones. Okay. How many, do we have people here for public comment?
Chair, I have one public comment signed up in chambers and one in Zoom.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll open the public comment portion of the hearing. All questions and comments on this matter are to be directed to the commission, not to the audience. And are we beginning in Zoom or in
We're
person?
starting here in chambers. Our first public speaker will be Victor Olmachenko. Victor, you'll have 3 minutes. And if there is anybody on the Zoom platform that would like to speak on this item, just star 9 for me at this time, and we'll give you 3 minutes at the next station.
I'm Victor Omolchenko, longtime West Hollywood resident, and speaking on behalf of the West Hollywood Preservation Alliance. The WHPA is pleased to support the innovative design of the 8020 Santa Monica property. It's a site that has long been an integral part of our city's history along its iconic 2-mile stretch of historic US Route 66, otherwise also known as California State Route 2. As our community eagerly anticipates the centennial celebration of the Mother Road in 2026. This project stands as a timely tribute to the legacy and enduring influence of Route 66, a celebrated symbol of American freedom, innovation, and adventure. And may I add, gas stations, motels, and restaurants over the years. This project reimagines a traditional gas station and tiny convenience store into a new destination. And you know, the developers have embraced the insightful recommendations of the Planning Commission's Design Review Subcommittee, ensuring the design reflects not only modern sensibilities, but also responds to, pays respect for West Hollywood's historic character. Inspired by the bold and playful Googie-style architecture of the 1960s, the design intelligently marries nostalgia with modern functionality, and especially the redesigned service station canopy that curves outward, like the previous gentleman described, at the corner to evoke a ship bow effect. With Mayor Chelsea Byers' recent participation at the meeting of the National Route 66 Centennial Commission and the city's commitment to commemorative activities, the project aligns with West Hollywood's official endeavors to honor and celebrate our shared past. The project unites the historic charm of the Mother Road with cutting-edge design, and the West Hollywood Preservation Alliance looks forward to its contributions to our community's evolving narrative. And now let me take my Alliance hat off and talk as a nearby resident, but beyond the 500 feet notice. I am so grateful to a neighbor of mine who provided with me this notice, which he is within the 500 notice area. And I know you've been having a lot of discussions about the 1,000-foot possible notice for development agreements. I realize this is not a development agreement, but for a city that prides itself in its general plan to encourage government transparency, I would hope that projects like this, whether requiring a development agreement or just regular commercial projects, that the noticing be extended beyond the 500-foot area. I think that's important for more people to be involved. I think you would have more public participation. And now overall, though, this is a fine project, and I look forward to seeing it, and I know the Alliance does too. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. And Chair, we're going to turn it over to the Zoom platform where we do have one speaker, I believe.
Yes, hi, my name is Nicole. I'm going to keep my camera off for the sake of how bad the internet connection has been, but I'm a resident in West Hollywood, living within 500 feet of the proposed project, and unfortunately I have a very different take from the prior speaker. I did send a probably better, more long email last night urging you to deny the permits for this project. I feel strongly that this project does not serve a public need. The current gas station is fully functional, well-maintained, and poses no issues for the community. To me, this feels like an absolute private money grab. There's no reason to be tearing down a fully functioning gas station to be more aesthetically pleasing. I can tell you that I frequent this area. I live around the corner. I walk these sidewalks all the time to walk to local businesses, workout studios. I have major concerns for the small businesses that are next door to this gas station. I go to that flower shop every week. The way these small businesses are going to be impacted by 9 to 12 months of construction is just going to be unimaginable for them, as well as the construction on Santa Monica Boulevard, which is one of the most major streets within the West Hollywood city. I commute on this multiple times a week. The absolute gridlock this is going to cause at one of the busiest intersections in the city is going to create absolute chaos. This just feels like a project that is being sold as this aesthetically pleasing, new, modern gas station and liquor store, cafe, whatever it is that's going to fill this empty unit. West Hollywood is already crawling with these things. We have liquor stores, we have grocery stores, we have cafes within walking distance of this exact area. This feels completely unnecessary. And my biggest concern for the residents, including myself, of this area is just the absolute noise and disruption a project of this scale is going to cause for months to even years if this gets delayed, based on other similar projects I've seen in West Hollywood and the greater city of Los Angeles. There are people in this area that work from home, people who are caretakers. I have a neighbor that is a night nurse and relies on sleeping during the day to function with her work schedule at the hospital. This type of noise within these residential streets is just going to be completely disruptive to everyone's routine. People moved here, including myself, to find a quiet, quaint neighborhood, and a project like this just completely disrupts everyone's day-to-day life. And I urge the commissioners to consider this strongly. It's unfortunate that other residents in this area haven't shown up, but I want to speak on their behalf and urge the commission to consider this strongly. This is a residential area at the end of the day. All of these neighboring streets that are perpendicular to this gas station are going to be completely disrupted, as well as the small businesses that neighbor this exact site. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. If there's any other attendees in the room that'd like to do a public comment, please press *9 and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
And Chair, I will just state for the record, I believe Victor already did during his public comment, but we did receive additional correspondence from the West Hollywood Preservation Alliance after the deadline. But it is basically, they are in support of the innovative redesign of the 8020 Santa Monica Boulevard property. And Chair, we are finished with the public comments section.
Okay, thank you. Does our applicant wish to speak in rebuttal? And as you approach, you have up to 5 minutes for your rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you again, Chair Lombardi. DJ Moore on behalf of the applicant. As I mentioned earlier, and with all due respect to the speaker, who was opposed to the construction impacts associated with this project. Certainly in relative comparison to most projects that happen in the city, including residential projects on residential streets, the construction timeline for this project is very short. And obviously we're subject to, I think, the 5 pages of conditions that are included in the staff's recommendation to ensure that construction noise, construction air quality, and impacts on businesses and traffic are minimized to the maximum extent feasible. And of course, the applicant intends to abide by all of those conditions. I thank you very much for your time again, and we respectfully request for your support of these entitlements. And if you have any questions, our team's here to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll now close the public comment portion of this hearing. Are there any questions for the applicant or staff? Commissioner Jones? Commissioner Rubin, do you have questions?
Yes, thank you. So just a quick question about the existing gas station sign, and I don't think this was addressed in the staff report. I read it and reread it and then did a word search, and I don't think it's in there. It looked from your presentation and from what we received that it would remain as is. Is that
That's correct.
accurate?
That's the proposal. You know, we're certainly happy to discuss the signage, but yes, the proposal was to maintain the existing, essentially the existing signage. I mean, it'll be new, but the same sort of shape and general location of the signage.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
I actually had the same question because it looked like it said Exxon on one page.
Oh, did?
Yeah, on sheet A 1.2, but it's the existing sign.
Yeah, it is the existing sign, and there's no, I mean, tenants come and go, you know, gas station flags come and go, but there's not a current plan to, you know, swap Shell for Exxon.
Okay, thank you.
That sounds like
Commissioner
a
Hoopengartner.
survey problem. Yes, this is a kind of a question more for staff. The 2 coast live oaks that are proposed to be planted in the southwest corner are canopy trees planted in native soil. Yay! But what is the requirement for, refresh my memory in terms of canopy tree requirements for a project like this?
Sure. Let me just pull up the canopy standards in the code. But the canopy tree standards are based off of square footage. Let me just give you 1 second. I'm just pull that.
The reason I'm asking is because a coast live oak becomes a very, very large tree. It's a wonderful tree in that respect. It's drought tolerant. It does a great job of absorbing rain runoff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you're planting 2 very close together, and that could actually impair both trees. And so you all may not believe what I'm about to say, but it really should only be 1 tree. I know, don't faint anybody.
Well, Commissioner, I can tell you while staff's looking, but I did memorize this requirement. So I believe that the code requirement is that we provide 3 canopy trees on the site, given the square footage, and we're providing 8. So yes, there's room to take 1 down without, you know, cutting into.
I mean, I would rather actually that you've got the willows; those are great. That the coast live oak maybe goes someplace else, but I just in that space, I don't think it's that tree. It's going to be huge. They get to be 100 feet tall. Inshallah, it does become 100 feet tall. But
yeah, so the code standard says that there's a requirement of a canopy tree for every 6,000 square feet. So with the lot size, it's 3 that's required.
Okay. Yeah, that would just be the one minor change I would recommend just because of the size of those trees. That was my only question.
Commissioner Solomon?
Thank you. Question for staff. It's mentioned in the staff report and also in the resolution that due to the floor area ratio on this project, you ran it through the city's VMT calculator tool. It rendered a less than significant impact, so no further analysis was required. I know we did this once before, maybe about a year ago, but can you maybe shed some light on what the VMT calculator tool is that you all use? And is that something, when I hear tool, is it something that's generally publicly available, or is it just something that exists in the staff planning world?
Yeah, so it's a staff tool, so we keep it internal. But I can have our Assistant Director explain more about how the VMT tool works.
I think Roger has oversold my ability to explain how the VMT tool works per se, but I can explain what the VMT calculation means and what it's looking for, if you'd like. But the tool itself uses the square footage of the use, the type of use, and estimates what the vehicle miles traveled would be related to that based on the specific area where we are. So it's more complicated than what I can explain personally.
Okay. The other question, two more questions. Wanted for staff, the extended hours license. So the current hours of operation for this site, as it currently exists, is 24 hours. Is that right?
That is correct.
And does it currently have an extended hours license to be able to do that?
So they were legal non-conforming, so they were able to kind of continue what they were doing before. But since now that they are coming to conformance with the current code standards, they'll have to follow the legal process of what is required.
And we're unable as a body to grant that license. That goes through the Business License Commission. Do we even opine as to whether or not they should grant it, or we can only just do it until 2 a.m. and we should not weigh in?
That's correct. So the municipal code does cover that the Business License Commission has the authority to review extended business license from 2 to 6. It's not within the purview of the Planning Commission.
Okay. Last question on the alcohol sales. It's mentioned several times, beer and wine. I assume that there are no off-site sales for spirits.
That's correct.
I don't know how all the alcohol licensing exactly works, so maybe shed some light on it.
Yeah, so there are different types of ABC licenses that allow for beer and wine sales, and then there's other licenses that allow for beer, wine, and spirits. For convenience store uses, per code, they're only allowed to do beer and wine. They're not allowed to do spirits for off-site sales.
Okay. Those were all of my questions. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Commissioner Matos?
Thank you, Chair Lombardi. I have a quick question for the applicant and then another question for staff. First of all, thank you for the thorough presentation. We appreciate it. Notice that there's EV charging stations that are going to be included on the site, absolutely vital for future planning in the city. I heard you say that the signage wouldn't be changing very much. I'm wondering how the applicant intends on advertising the presence of the EV charging stations so that folks with EV cars actually can access them, given that they'll be in the rear of the property.
I'm looking back at my client because that's a very good question. And I'm assuming that we will be amenable to adding a block to that signage to advertise the availability of EV charging spaces. And he is nodding in vehement agreement, yes.
Okay, yeah, I think that would be really useful just as a public resource and a public good for the community to be aware of that presence. My next question is actually similar. I noticed in the staff report, this is for staff, that there was mention of bicycle racks being installed. However, when I looked at the resolution PC 25-1605 on page 13, specifically chapter 2, the bicycle racks were not listed in the project description, despite the EV charging being listed in there. Is that something that we would normally put in a project description to ensure that that public resource would be available?
So when the project gets approved, they would be approved according to plan. So that would ensure that there would be the bicycle parking on site.
Okay, so is it mentioned in the resolution or in the plans?
It's not,
I wasn't able to see it, so I'm wondering if we needed to add it to the project description resolution.
If that's what the commissioner wishes to pursue to move forward with, yeah, we can do that, but it's not in the condition. It could have been an oversight, but okay. We are covered in terms of having it on the set of plans, and they would have to build according to plan.
Okay, so it's on the plans.
It is on the site plan.
Okay, perfect. And then just a quick question, follow-up in the applicant. Would you be agreeable to including bicycle racks as part of the project description in the resolution?
Certainly, that would be fine.
Wonderful. That's all my questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Cavallero?
Thank you, Chair Lombardi. Since design review, I found out that California now has more EV charging stations than we do have gas pumps. And I'm now surprised to sort of look at the proposal and see sort of the opposite proportion.
Commissioner, I don't know if your microphone is working because I'm having trouble hearing you, so I want to make sure I hear you.
Okay. So since design review, it was announced that California now has more EV charging stations than we do have gas pumps. And so I'm looking at this project slightly differently now. It's like it's sort of the old proportion, or a different proportion than what we hope to achieve in California. Would you ever consider having more EV charging stations? And in light of that, there was no modification done to the two pumps closest to Santa Monica Boulevard. And I know I've been thinking, how would I solve this issue? And if you turn those two to EV charging stations, the issue of car collisions or trying to back up might be resolved. That would bring 4 charging stations to this site, which would almost make it equal to gas. So that's my question. Would something like that be considered?
So the issue with that, Commissioner, is that there are actually safety standards, related to having the fuel pumps in proximity to the charging stations. And, I think there's just state regulators out there are worried that, you might get some kind of spark from an EV charging station that could, potentially ignite a fuel station. So there are actually minimum distance requirements associated with the charging stations. And we had a very difficult time orienting the station canopy in order to ensure that there was going to be adequate distance on the site between the EV charging stations and the fuel dispensers. And so unfortunately, the only location on the site that's outside of that critical radius is where the 2 spaces are located now. So we, unfortunately, at least the way that the safety standards are today, we've maxed out what we can do given the physical limitations of this site and the distance that we have to maintain from the fuel dispensing stations.
That's clear. Thank you. I understand. The other question: will you be touching the gas tanks on the site? Will you be changing them out?
The underground storage tanks.
Yeah.
Yes.
They will be changed out.
They'll be modernized or new.
So likely that will be the most disruptive part.
That will be the most disruptive part. That's the only major excavation that's required, and it's not. I mean, it's not that major of an excavation. It's only in a portion of the site.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Shall we move on to deliberation? Okay, who'd like to go first? Commissioner Matos?
Thank you, Chair Lombardi. So I think that when we look at this project, I was looking into the resolution around some of the things that address some of the public comments that were raised this evening, specifically heartened by Section 5, which requires a neighborhood meeting prior to demolition or construction, Section 8, which has landscape maintenance requirements and cleanliness requirements. Section 9 requires public safety plan and enhanced safety measures submitted to the city in advance before the certificate of occupancy is issued. And Section 9, which requires compliance with noise standards outlined in the West Hollywood Municipal Code. So I think that a lot of the things that have been raised have actually already been addressed in the resolution, which I found to be very, very thorough. I want to thank the applicant for a very thorough presentation and staff for a thorough staff report and resolution. I think that this is a very good opportunity for us to revitalize an existing site in a meaningful way, and it provides additional opportunities for public realm enhancements, EV charging and such. The only 2 things that I would ask for consideration by the body would be including the bicycle racks in the project description on the resolution, page 13, section 2, under project description, the EV charging is mentioned there, but I didn't see the bicycle racks mentioned there. I think it would be great just to note it for the record. And the other part is we heard from the applicant that they are willing to entertain EV signage just so that the public is aware of this incredible public good, and I want to applaud the applicant for including that, just to have that EV signage so that people know that those charging opportunities are available in the rear of the property. Other than that, I think that this opportunity, this item makes sense, and I plan to support it, and I hope to have the support from the body on those two common sense items that have been agreed to by the applicant. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Chair Gregoire.
I support the two suggestions that Commissioner Matos made. I do believe, I appreciate the public speaker earlier, the concern about the disruption caused by the project, but as noted, this is a lot less disruptive than a 4 or 5 story residential building. And I do believe the project will be built quickly and the disruption will be minimal. I do believe that this is going to improve the site and it will be an enhancement to the neighborhood, and raise people's property values. I don't think there's going to be any increased adverse problems caused by this. And once there's an opportunity, I will support approval of staff recommendation.
Anyone else? Commissioner Jones and then Commissioner Solomon.
Yes, thank you. So I know this is my preferred gas station by where I live. I live a couple of blocks up Laurel. I've lived on Laurel now for 14 years, and this has been my preferred gas station since I moved in. I will literally drive down Laurel and take a left and then circle around the block just to be able to go to this gas station. That is how much I prefer it. So I know it well. I also walk a lot in this area. I know and patronize, I'd say, most of the businesses on the block where this is, the dry cleaner, the tailor, the flower shop. There's also a nail salon there with a very cute dog if you ever happen to walk by on a weekend day. But I think, just to back up, this gas station actually underwent a little bit of a renovation. I'm going to say about 6 months ago. It might have been longer than that. I'm sorry, my sense of time is a little warped since the pandemic, so bear with me. But I felt a strong sense of consternation because I didn't want it to go away, and I was very happy that it was not there. I think some of my kind of primary complaints about the site as it is currently configured is, one, there's 4 different ways to enter and exit into this gas station, which, if you've ever been to this gas station, it is regularly, every single pump is full. I've literally had to leave sometimes because there are so many people there. So again, I know it well, and I'm very happy about the fact that they'll be removing 2 of those curb cuts to kind of help with the flow of traffic. I'm also very happy about the fact that the proposed structure, the convenience store and cafe, will be abutting the flower shop right there. Much respect to our phone and our Zoom caller earlier, but you know, I actually think this is going to be a really good thing for this area. There are a number of businesses that are open during the day that have become real destinations for people, especially pedestrians. There's lots of like DoorDash and stuff. There's Irv's, which has really opened up kind of the streetscape. I walked down there with my husband and our son. There's Giada next door. There also are some things happening down at Fairfax and Santa Monica that have really, I think, activated the kind of pedestrian experience and made things a destination in a way that they were not before, except maybe for people who are kind of, you know, relying on public transportation to run errands and get to work and things like that. So I'm very much in favor of the project. I'm also in favor of Commissioner Matos's proposed changes. I think that they're small, and it sounds like the applicant is, very much open to incorporating those. So I'm, fully in support of this project. I do think it will be an improvement. And again, I think that it really makes a better use of the space. I appreciate the electric charging stations. I do think, look, this part of town in West Hollywood, we do not have a lot of options for electric charging. And in fact, so much so that I have seriously had to rethink like whether or not I can have an electric vehicle because I don't have a place to charge it. So having an option like this is a real, I live in an apartment and I can't charge it there, so an older apartment. So, you know, I'm very happy about the electric charging stations being added. I also recognize that while EVs are very popular and plug-in hybrids are very popular, lots of people still drive, you know, gas-fueled vehicles. So, and I don't want to sound so ebullient about this because yes, it is going to benefit me, but it will benefit all of us because we are all residents of the city of West Hollywood up here. So I'm very much in support of this. I could wax on, but I won't. Thank you, and happy to entertain further discussion if the need arises. Thanks.
Okay, Commissioner Solomon.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I support staff's recommendation of approval of the project. I support Commissioner Matos's 2 small additions to it. I want to thank the applicant for a really thorough presentation, especially want to thank staff for probably one of the more thorough resolutions that I've seen, including all the conditions. I will say I do hate to see a 17,000 square foot parcel dead center in prime West Hollywood go and there not be a single unit of housing on there, as the state has tried to push things like AB 2011 to put housing in mixed use places with a ministerial permitting process on it. But I get that people in the gas station business are not in the housing business, and that probably presents a lot of problems to approach it that way. But I do think that this project, as presented, will be an enhancement to the public realm. It will help to activate the street there, the street in that area. Probably, you couldn't propose anything that would be worse than the current street activation of the current site. No offense to the owner who's here. So I am glad to see that it is going forward with a well thought through project, and I especially want to give a big shout out to Design Review, who gave the recommendation to please not use palm trees. They are not trees, they are weeds. So I think that the landscaping plan will be a huge improvement to that, what is otherwise just a barren concrete island right now. So I will vote for this whenever someone presents a motion to do so.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoopengarner?
Yes. I would like to say that this design review meeting was one of our best I think we've ever had in many respects. It was exactly as design review was intended. It had a thorough conversation about the opportunities of the project and resulted in a lot of creative ideas, and the applicant took them on board, and not only that, they took them up a notch. So you not only said, yeah, that Googie idea is kind of cool, and you incorporated it in the canopy, but then you added the metal cladding that was in the cafe building to incorporate it and bring it together. So to me, that's exactly what design review is about, and why we want to do it and why it's important to our process. And I want to, again, thank the applicant for really engaging and participating and taking on board and being creative with the ideas. This project dramatically activates the space from what it is. It makes it more neighborhood friendly. I was literally there today picking up a pair of shoes from the shoe repair guy. And one of the things we're losing is our neighborhood serving businesses. And so this is introducing 1.5 new neighborhood serving businesses. And that's exactly what we need in this space in this time. It adds considerable green space and the EV, and it will be a nice addition and a destination addition to Route 66. It would be very interesting to see if we can have it done in time for the anniversary, and that would even address the collars concerns. And yes, thank you for removing the palms and putting in canopy trees. I would like to say yes, I absolutely agree with Commissioner Matos' recommendations, and if I were to move this forward, I would say to do that, plus simply take an X through the northernmost coast live oak and replace it with a chalopsis. So you're not getting rid of the number of trees, you're just replacing it with a smaller tree that would be more compatible. So if I were to make the motion, that I would add that third item. And with that, I want to say thank you to all the parties for making this, I think, a better part of WeHo.
Thank you. Commissioner Carvalero?
Yeah, everything's been said, but I'll just say that I truly appreciate the applicant's response to design review. It really took all the comments into consideration and did up it a notch. So I'm very excited about that. That one issue that I mentioned of the two pumps next to Santa Monica Boulevard, that will end up being a management, sort of situation. So now that you've explained the distance requirements between the pumps and the EV, I get why the pumps are oriented the way they are. I didn't know that before. Yeah, and I live up the street. I am an EV. I do own an electric car, and I go to the chargers at Sunset and Laurel. So hence, I just want more electric chargers in the neighborhood. So that was the reason that I made the comment before. And as we transition further, hopefully more of those parking spaces on the south side of the lot might be able to be converted to EV chargers. Yeah, walking down the street, it's always interesting because the minute you hit this part of the block, you're blinded by sunlight. There's no shade. It feels like a hole along Santa Monica Boulevard. And this landscaping will definitely deal with that issue and just make the pedestrian experience so much better. So I'm in support of the project. I'm in support of all the comments that have been made. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And I see that Commissioner Matos has made a motion. Did you have anything you wanted to say before that?
No, thank you, Chair Lombardi. I mean, I would just move the staff recommendation with the two changes plus Commissioner Hoopengartner's, which has been outlined. The first change being the addition of EV signage indicating that there is EV charging present for public good on the site. And the other is to include the bicycle racks in the resolution project description, specifically page 13, section 2.1. And then also Commissioner Hoopengartner's recommendation pertaining to the tree addendum.
Okay. It looks like legal has to say something, just because I don't want to vote blindly here. I really appreciated the design review process and everything that everyone said up here. I would just reiterate, but the reduction of the curb cuts, the overall site and landscaping improvements, the metal cladding and the incorporation of that into the design, the dialogue between the canopy and the building, all of that was, really amazing to see it come through. So I commend the applicant for that, and I'm generally in support of both the project and the comments that came from Commissioner Matos and Hoopengartner as well. And I know we've got a motion, and legal would like to say something.
I would, yes. Okay, so with our pending motion, and just for what Commissioner Matos read into the record, and in advance of a second, what we may suggest for that pending motion, and this is a re-articulation in some ways to what Commissioner Matos said, is that under the project description under section 2.1 of the resolution, to add reference to the bike racks under a new subsection G of that condition 2.1, we would state that the motion reflects the applicant's intent to create signage for the 2 EV charging stations on the project site available for the public. And finally, amend the approved project materials and submitted plans to allow that of the 2 coastal live oak canopy trees that may include a single live oak canopy tree and discretion of a second city-approved different species of tree, and all other references and obligations with respect to canopy trees would remain the same.
Sorry, that was not my motion. My motion was to do a chalopsis, just like the other chalopsis along the south border, and not a city-approved tree, because that would, aesthetically, that would introduce a third thing that wouldn't work in that space. And to be specific, that the tree to be replaced would be the one to the northwest, because it's the one closest to the sidewalk.
So I would suggest, and I know we have a pending motion, but no second, I would just ask the applicant to confirm they're okay with a chalopsis.
Chalopsis.
Chalopsis, yes. It's not my native tongue. Chalopsis.
If you look on L1.1, is
on
the best place
L-
for everybody to see it.
L1.1. So yeah, I would just ask, and we've got a confirmation from the audience for applicant. So
As long as it's not a palm tree.
yes.
It's a desert willow.
Okay, so with that confirmation from the applicant, the first 2 points attached to Commissioner Mato's motion about section 2.1 and new subsection G, that the motion reflects applicant's intent to create signage for the 2 EV charging stations on the project site for the public, and amend the approved project materials and submitted plans so that the live oak canopy tree that's on the most north, I'm looking at you, Commissioner Hoopengarner.
Northernmost?
The northwest tree. There's two
Okay.
trees, one's here, one's here. The northwest tree
Okay.
would be replaced with a chalopsis.
The northwest coastal live oak would be replaced with a chalopsis tree, and that would be the third condition.
Common name, desert willow.
Is the motion maker okay with
Yeah.
the clarifications from legal?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, do we have a second? Commissioner Carvalero has seconded the motion. And are we?
Chair, the record.
No, I never saw it. I never saw it. I'm sorry. I was wondering. Yeah, we continue to have issues up here because mine says Matos. Did yours say Matos? What did yours say?
And the motion passes unanimously with 7 ayes. We do have an appeal process for this item. The resolution number PC 25-1605, the Planning Commission just approved for the property located at 8020 Santa Monica Boulevard, memorializes the Commission's final action on this matter. This action is subject to appeal to the City Council. Appeals must be submitted within 10 calendar days from this date to the City Clerk's office. Appeals must be in writing and accompanied by the required fees. The City Clerk's office can provide appeal forms and information about waiver of fees, and the appeal deadline will be Monday, June 16th, 2025 at 5 p.m.
Thank you. Do my colleagues, I was going to ask if my colleagues would like a brief break.
Chair, staff would request a break. We need to test a public hearing item for the next presentation
Okay,
to
then
make sure it's legal, so a break would be...
Let's aim for 7 minutes. Okay, thank you. It's funny because so Okay, thank you. We're now going to begin our second public hearing of the evening. This is item 10A, 8300 Sunset Boulevard. 10B, sorry, item 10B, 8300 Sunset Boulevard. This is a public hearing to consider a proposed request to renovate the designated local cultural resource with a new rooftop deck and increase the total outdoor area where the accessory sales, service, and consumption of alcohol is permitted for the hotel use. And we will begin with this staff report.
Great. Good evening, Commissioners. Doug Vu with Department Staff. So, okay, looks like VPN is going in and out. All right. Okay, so the item before you is a request to construct alterations to the exterior of the building that includes a new rooftop deck and a permit to expand the outdoor area for the accessory sales, service, and consumption of alcohol at the hotel located at 8300 Sunset Boulevard. There we go. Okay, so the subject property is located at the southeast corner of Sunset Boulevard and Sweetser Avenue. It is within the Sunset Specific Plan and is surrounded by commercial uses to the north, commercial and high-density residential to the east, high-density residential to the south, and William S. Hart Park to the west. And my internet keeps going in and out. I apologize. Okay, let's try it again. So the property is improved with a U-shaped three-story hotel building that was constructed in 1962 as the Thunderbird Inn, but was converted to a senior care facility in 1968. It was eventually converted back to a hotel that opened as the Standard Hotel in 1999, and it operated until it was permanently closed in early 2021. So in addition to the guest rooms, the building contains a restaurant, a nightclub, an outdoor pool and deck area, and a two-level subterranean garage. And more recently, in 2022, the property was designated as a West Hollywood local cultural resource. So in preparation for reopening of the hotel use, the new owner initiated a multi-phase renovation plan that included the reconstruction of the interior guest rooms beginning in 2023 as part of phase one, which was then followed by the reconstruction of the interior lobby, restaurant, nightclub, and bar. And that work began in mid-2024 as phase two. Which brings us to the final and third phase of the project being proposed tonight, which includes the construction of a rooftop deck, other minor exterior alterations to the building, and a conditional use permit amendment to allow the accessory sales and service of alcohol on the deck as part of the hotel's daily operations. So the new 14,000 square foot deck would include approximately 9,388 square feet of amenity space, elevator bulkheads and stairwell extensions to provide rooftop access, and 6-foot tall glass sound barriers along the east, south, and west perimeters of the building, and obviously, you know, the associated mechanical equipment and screening that would be required for the operation of the building. So as part of the hotel's normal operations, the deck would be available only to people staying at the hotel and their guests. They would be permitted to consume alcohol on the rooftop that is purchased at the bar downstairs or through room service, and so there will not be a permanent bar on the rooftop. Ambient music would be provided using speakers installed on the deck to produce amplified sound that would be positioned to limit noise spillover and comply with the city's noise ordinance. So as currently conditioned for the existing outdoor pool deck at the ground floor, the operating hours for the roof deck would remain the same, and that would be between 9 a.m. and midnight, Sunday through Wednesday, and 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. Between Thursday through Saturday. As part of the hotel's normal operations, the rooftop deck can also be booked for private gatherings and events that may use a temporary rollout bar for alcohol sales and service, and the maximum occupancy would be 399 people. However, these private events cannot include live entertainment without a special events permit, and the hotel can receive up to 16 of these special events permits per calendar year, which are approved by the city's Neighborhood and Business Safety Division. So to ensure the potential noise impacts from human activity and the use of amplified speakers on the rooftop would not create a nuisance, a noise analysis was conducted using a three-dimensional model to determine the maximum sound levels that the rooftop deck could generate that would not be considered annoying or described in our ordinance as plainly audible at the nearest residential properties on Sweetser and DeLong Prairie between the hours of 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. In accordance with the city's noise control ordinance. So these thresholds are 71 decibels during daytime hours daily and 57 decibels during nighttime hours beginning at midnight, Sunday through Wednesday, and beginning at 2 a.m. Thursday through Saturday. So operation of the deck at these maximum noise levels would not be plainly audible at the neighboring residential properties where the sound level limit is 36 decibels. So the hotel will operate with a full valet service for guests arriving and departing in private vehicles, and guests using rideshare services for pickup and drop-off would utilize the on-street curb space on Sunset Boulevard. So to assess the additional parking demand that would be generated by private events and the hotel operating at full capacity, a queuing analysis for the valet operations was conducted, which determined that under the highest demand conditions on a typical Saturday during the beginning of an event at 7 p.m. and the hotel at 100% occupancy, a total of 97 vehicles would utilize valet service that would require 7 attendants to avoid queues extending onto Sunset Boulevard. So to ensure that valet service will always accommodate the parking demand and the queue does not extend beyond the on-site valet service area, a condition of approval in the draft resolution requires that the parking operations plan always have the necessary number of valet attendants on duty. So moving back to the other physical improvements to the building, they include the addition of new steps and metal railing at the entry platform for the relocated main entrance and the adjacent exit door. There's going to be the demolition of non-historic glass screens that are adjacent to the entrance. The porte cochere entrance of the hotel, the roof of that would be faux planted. And along the secondary and rear elevations of the building, the project will add painted metal screens at the basement levels. And so as a cultural resource, these proposed exterior alterations including the rooftop deck, require the approval of a certificate of appropriateness under the city's preservation ordinance. And one of the required findings for a C of A includes the project's conformance to the Secretary of Interior standards and guidelines for rehabilitation. So these proposed alterations do conform to all of those required findings. And last month, the Historic Preservation Commission recommended unanimously that the Planning Commission approve this C of A. So in summary, this proposed final phase for the renovation of the existing hotel to add a new rooftop deck construct the minor exterior alterations, and increase the outdoor area where the accessory sales and service and consumption of alcohol is permitted. Will reestablish a long-time use at this property that contributes to the character of the Sunset Strip, while also preserving the historic integrity of the building. So as conditioned, the operation of this hotel would be consistent with the intent and objective standards of the zoning ordinance and the general plan. And staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve this project and adopt the draft resolution. So this concludes staff's presentation, and I am available for questions.
Thank you. Are there any disclosures? No disclosures? Any questions for staff? Clarification type questions? No? Okay. Oh, Commissioner Hoopengarner?
Okay. My first question is about the studies. For all of our CEQA analysis, the consultants must be selected by the city. Were these consultants selected by the city?
So these studies weren't done to satisfy CEQA.
I understand that, but I'm just...
No, these consultants were selected by the applicant.
By the applicant, okay.
And I would just add that that is standard practice for a noise study for this type of thing. Most CEQA studies we do contract, but for these types of things, the applicant can.
So the same threshold for independence does not pertain to this as it does to a CEQA project. Thank you. I'd like to start with asking questions about the valet queue study. And on page 4, there's an assumption that of the 399 guests, 160 are going to arrive by vehicle, and those will all be 2 people per car. I'd like to understand the basis for that assumption, and how is that shown to be true in other events, in other hotels along the Strip? I mean, this conversation came up, actually, believe it or not, when the House of Blues was approved, and the assumption was made that people were going to come to a car, and it proved to be categorically false. So the reason I'm asking is, we've got history of this not being true, so what was the basis for this assumption?
Commissioner Hoopengarner, since this is a pretty detailed technical question, the applicant's traffic consultant is here this evening and will be able to answer your question.
Okay, good. But I'm assuming that staff reviewed the assumptions and is in agreement with the assumptions.
Staff reviewed the assumptions, yes.
And
is in general agreement with them.
Okay.
But then again, I am not a traffic consultant.
Okay, thank you. Given that in that assumption on page 4, it is that 120 of the 399 guests are going to be already guests of the hotel and therefore not have a car. Does this assumption apply to all of the events? And is there any anticipation of a requirement that if you're going to book an event, there should be an X percentage of a hotel rooms booked for the guests of that event in order to somehow come in agreement with this assumption?
I think a lot of these questions are technical and can be answered by the applicant's consultant, but I would say that most of these assumptions are just that. They're assumptions and they're based for generalities and they're not for very specific types of events. Some events will have more cars and some events will have fewer cars, and we can't really anticipate every single nuance of that, but they're trying to base assumptions on what they see in the field and create a situation that's going to function for the majority of the time.
Okay. So the fact that the study assumed that all the events would end at 10 p.m., even though the applicant's asking for 2 a.m. hours, so there was no disconnect there?
Can you identify where that sentence is, Commissioner Hoopengarner? So I can
Oh,
take a look at it.
goodness. I mean, you've got it online, Google, 10 p.m. Yeah, right there in the scenario, right on the cover page. Oh, excuse me, page 3, the scenario. And the ends, the event's conclusion at 10 p.m. So that's under the assumptions scenario, and it's the last sentence. It's saying that the assumption is that all the events will end at 10 p.m. And yet the conditions you're proposing is that the events would be able to run until 2 a.m. So again, I'm trying to understand that, especially given that 2 a.m. is when all the bars close and when the traffic changes on the boulevard, and therefore, my question.
Correct. I think that it's just based upon, the applicant's experience with their existing hotels, that typically special events generally start at 7 p.m. and the majority of them conclude at 10 p.m. But that's not to say that there won't be events that continue beyond 10 p.m.
Okay.
And Commissioner Hoopengarner, I would add, I think just based on the way the hearing will be structured, to the extent the applicant has their own technical experts, some of those questions that are less clarification questions may be answered as part of the applicant's presentation.
There's just kind of the staff's understanding component and then the actual technical side of it. So I'm trying to get both parts of it here. So moving along. How many metered spaces on Sunset is staff proposing to dedicate to this project?
So this would be at the option of the applicant based upon the demand. They would be able to request the use of those meters from the city and would be, charged the appropriate fee to do so.
But throughout the staff report, I couldn't see a count of the number of meters that they would be allowed.
I believe it's up to 3.
Okay, thank you. So there was a queuing study for the valet, but there was no parking study. So we're talking about an additional 399 people. I understand there is, depending on how you pencil it, now an excess number of parking spaces in the garage given the hotel's original approval and what's needed now, et cetera. But we're talking 400 people. In addition, if you have a full hotel full of guests, is there adequate parking? Because that would impact the queuing if all of a sudden there's no place to put the cars. And is there any plan for overflow parking? Because I couldn't find that anywhere in the staff report or the resolutions.
So the applicant performed this queuing analysis based upon the existing number of parking spaces that the hotel has. And it took into account, how many of those spaces would be used by hotel guests, in addition to how many spaces would be needed to accommodate these special events. And those numbers were used to determine that based upon the anticipated demand at the most highest level, which is Saturday at 7 p.m., that if there were 7 valet attendants on duty, that would provide the sufficient amount of service to accommodate those vehicles on site without having to have the vehicles queue onto Sunset Boulevard.
So if 250 vehicles show up for 400 people event, where will the cars go?
I think that if there is demand for additional parking that is not available on site, the applicant would need to make other plans to provide that parking, whether it's through a parking use permit or through some other means.
But it's not addressed in these, okay,
No, it's
thank
not.
you.
Because
All
this
right.
is an existing use.
This seems like something the applicant would know their property and be better
Well, but
equipped
we
to
also
answer.
have ordinances about parking, so I want to make sure that we're covering those. Thank you. So quickly, I'm trying to move through this. The noise study. it shows that between the hours of 10 and 2, the noise levels will exceed the code maximum, including an unusual spike at 2 a.m. What other rooftop venues have been granted a variance to exceed code maximum noise ordinances?
Commissioner Hooper-Garner, to my understanding, the proposed use would not exceed noise levels.
Page 2 of the exhibit to the summary on the noise shows at 10 o'clock that the code maximum is 43 decibels, and yet both measurements of background and ambient noise are 48 and 53 respectively. So that is in excess of the code maximum. And if you look down the page, 10, 11, 12, 1, and 2, they're all in excess of the code maximum. So hence my question, when have we, in other instances similar to this, granted a variance against the code maximums?
To my knowledge, Commissioner Hooper-Garner, the city has not. But if I may clarify, the sound levels that you identify on page 2, those are the ambient sound levels measured at the residences, not the sound levels that the roof deck would be permitted to emit.
So
I'm sorry, I'm lost in a couple ways. What document are we looking at?
I'm looking at the
That's what I have.
attachment. So it's
Not page 2,
Exhibit
page
E.
4.
It's Exhibit E, and so Kimley Horn did a summary, and then they have attached the actual original study.
Sorry, what page number?
It's page 2.
Page 4.
Okay. Yeah, document number 2, page 2, sorry,
Okay.
of the Trinity Consultants document. There's a chart right at the top of the page. So you're saying that those decibel levels are the decibels being heard at the residences?
Correct. So
And those exceed the code maximum, and that's okay?
They do not. Commissioner Hooper-Garner, if you look at the very last page of that exhibit, there is a table that identifies what the maximum ambient sound levels at the residential properties would be during the day and in the evening. And then next to it in green would be the ambient sound levels at those residential properties when the roof is operating at the maximum sound levels.
So you're talking about the chart at the bottom of page 4?
No, I'm talking about the table on the very last page of the exhibit. The very last page. So past all of the diagrams and the drawings on the very last page.
Okay. So
the two columns on the left identify what the maximum sound level limits are, and the two columns on the right identify what those sound levels would be when the roof deck is operating at those maximum decibels that are identified in the staff report, which is 71 decibels during the day and 57 decibels in the evening.
I think you're talking about this
Yes.
right here?
Yes.
I don't see 71 on this page at all.
I'm sorry, it's a little bit confusing. So
that
those
that-
numbers are the ambient noise levels measured at the sensitive receptors.
Uh-huh.
However, the rooftop with its sound equipment can operate with sound levels that are much higher where the source is. So
Understood.
at the source, it's 71 decibels. Then you have sound walls that mitigate some of that. You've got the topography, the downhill topography that reduces some of that. So by the time that 71 decibels reaches the residential properties on Sweetser and DeLongpre, those noise levels will be reduced down to between 48 decibels during the day and 36 decibels in the evening, which fall under the thresholds that have been
Okay.
established.
If I may,
I'll
I'm
save
sorry,
the rest
but
of my
I just
questions.
want to.
I'll save the rest of my questions for the applicant.
I really don't want this to turn into a lesson in acoustics today.
well,
like I wouldn't want lighting design
I
to
think
be
it's
the
gonna be one
topic
of the-
either.
the-
So, if there's technical questions, that we can proceed with the meeting, and then we can delve into those when we have time. But I want to be cognizant of how many people we have here today. And,
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
My last two questions relate to the landscaping of the roof and page L400. Why does it cite LA City Municipal Code? And what would be the appropriate code for it to cite for West Hollywood?
I imagine, Commissioner Hoopengarner, that that is an error on the applicant's part. We are obviously not in the city of LA, so this project would not be subject to LA's code.
And so when staff reviewed this, there wasn't any appropriate West Hollywood code that would address the same issues?
So the West Hollywood municipal code states that landscaping will be provided for projects at the entitlement stage. The applicant is required to provide preliminary landscape plans, and when the project goes through plan review check, that's when the landscape plans would need to be stamped by a landscape architect and would be reviewed for consistency with any other regulatory requirements.
Okay. In our emails, you mentioned that the landscaping is not in fact sod, but is being proposed to be plastic turf?
Correct. The walking surface of the deck is going to be artificial turf.
Okay. Has that been reviewed by the urban designer to make sure that it complies with the city's sustainability goals?
I did not have this project reviewed by the city's urban designer, but in terms of the city's sustainability goals, I think that since these areas will be heavily traversed, the applicant believed and staff agrees that the use of artificial turf would be a much preferable material than actual grass.
Okay. That's it for now. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, then we'll move on to the applicant's presentation. Please state your name and city of residence, and you will have 10 minutes to speak.
Good evening, Commissioners. Andrew Brady, resident of the City of Los Angeles, here representing the applicant for the project 8300 Sunset Development LLC. First, I'd like to say we fully concur with the staff report and just want to have a show of appreciation for staff. We work in a lot of cities, and West Hollywood as one of the best planning staffs around, so you should be very proud. Here on behalf of Ian Traeger Company, that's the developer of this project. As you may know, Ian is a pioneer of the boutique hotel movement, starting in the mid-1980s, and has since continued to create dozens of the highest quality hotels around the globe. Simply put, Ian is one of the world's great hoteliers. His minimalist aesthetic and tasteful modern design and touches have been widely celebrated. He's also led the way with including greater amenity spaces with beautiful common areas and places for guests to gather and recreate, and these trends have caught on industry-wide. Ian Traeger Company has proven itself to be a thought leader in continually reinventing the hospitality industry. The brand here is the newest brand of the Ian Traeger Company is Public. The hotel here will fly the public flag. And again, Ian Traeger's inventing a new type of hotel experience. This is for grown-ups who want to experience great spaces, a quiet, peaceful, thoughtful environment. The brand is oriented towards a true luxury experience for business travelers and other boutique hotel customers. But the point here is to really deliver that experience with a more reasonable price point than standard luxury offerings. When it comes to this property at 8300 Sunset, Ian Traeger's plan from day one was to utilize the existing building. At no point was a demo and rebuild part of the plan, and this is a building with a long history in the city. It was originally constructed as the Thunderbird Inn in 1962. It was a senior living facility between 1968 and 1995. It was reopened as a hotel in 1999, and that hotel shut down in 2020. So it's been almost 5 years since this building has been vacant. This building is a designated historic resource. Ian Traeger Company was a big supporter of the local historic designation of the building. There was a community-led effort in 2022 to designate the building as a city cultural resource. At that time, Ian Traeger Company was in the process of purchasing the building, but had not yet purchased it. Ian Traeger Company made it a condition of closing that the owner at the time not oppose the designation. So from the start, Ian Traeger's intention was to rehabilitate and revive this building, which, as noted in the prior slide, has been closed and shut down for nearly 5 years. And when Ian Traeger purchased the hotel, there were choices to make. One of the choices was adding new rooms by adding an extra floor to the building, but ultimately the decision was made to not add height, but instead to maintain the building's original form. But this decision came at a cost, literally entailed giving up revenue. And as this restoration work has continued, as staff mentioned, this is an ongoing project. The cost of doing the work has continued to increase beyond the original projections. And I do want to emphasize that the work includes significant structural upgrades to the building to ensure its long-term viability. Since there was no room anywhere else in the building or on the lot, adding amenity space to the roof became the chosen means by which value could be added without altering the historic look and feel of the building. The building has no open amenity or conference room space, so this rooftop is a critical part of the business plan of ensuring the financial success of the hotel and its competitiveness in the marketplace, which includes several newer, larger hotels along the Sunset Strip with significant gathering, conference spaces, and roof decks. So the roof provides a quiet space for guests to do yoga, walk, read a book, recreate in our famously great weather. And activating the rooftop space is critical to ensuring the financial success of the hotel restoration endeavor. And beyond that, this hotel is going to be a huge draw and a means of maintaining and yet again revitalizing the area as an economic and cultural hub. Oh, did I get kicked off the Zoom? I think I got kicked off the Zoom. Let's try that. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, I'm back on? Okay. So as staff alluded to, the work on the hotel is ongoing. The building is already authorized to operate as a hotel with alcohol service under CUPs issued in the mid-90s. It is currently ongoing a gut renovation. We were here before this commission 1 year ago on the modification of the alcohol CUP on the reconfiguration of the ground floor. And as noted just last month, the Historic Preservation Commission recommended approval of certificate of appropriateness for the hotel roof activation and the minor facade and other design changes before the commission today. As noted, and here you see, this is the plan for the rooftop. So this thing's got a bit of a lag on it. This staff showed you this. This is the activation of the space. So the total squareage of the landscaped area on the roof is 1,406 square feet. There's 9,388 feet are traversable by people. This is mentioned a guest amenity. It's not going to be open to the public generally. Key card access will be required. The use of alcohol will generally entail guests bringing up drinks from downstairs if they so choose. But alcohol sales are also requested. There is no permanent bar proposed, but there will be a rollout bar that can be used for guest events. For instance, if a conference is in town, a company that buys a block of rooms at the hotel may want to have a meeting or host an event on the roof, and a rollout bar would be available for that. As mentioned, and we do have good answers for all of the questions that you asked, but the noise levels on the roof are controlled by a condition of approval with maximum noise levels based on a technical noise analysis that demonstrated what noise levels can occur on the roof that will fully comply with the city's general plan and noise ordinance standards. And they do comply, and we will explain exactly how and why. So we went over, so finally, in addition to the CUP amendment, one of the requests here is for certificate of appropriateness. As noted, The Historic Preservation Commission has recommended approval of the certificate of appropriateness based on their determination that the work here is consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards. We also note that the National Park Service has determined that the project is consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards as part of their approval of historic tax credits for the building. They are, of course, the agency that drafts and enforces the Secretary's standards. They are the authoritative source. The changes to the building are ultimately minor and cosmetic. The basic form of the building and its character-defining features are maintained and in many ways enhanced by the design. The work, as mentioned, consists of a new roof, extending existing stairs and elevators up to access the new roof, minor modifications to the sunset entry that preserves the existing fenestration, new mechanical and screening, a faux green roof on the porte cochere, and new landscaping and irrigation. Again, these changes preserve and enhance the overall form and key character-defining features of the building as determined by both the Historic Preservation Commission and the National Parks Department. This project is validly exempt from CEQA. There are two different exemptions that apply as indicated by staff, which is the Class 1 exemption, which are minor changes to existing buildings, and the Class 31 exemption, which applies to the rehabilitation of historic buildings. Both apply, so the request is that both be adopted. And that ends our main presentation, but we do, we did hear the commissioner questions, and we do have our noise consultant, we have our traffic consultant, we have our landscape consultant, and we have our architect here, and we are happy to answer each and every one of your technical questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? I actually have one or two just that may be a benefit in case it influences what the public wants to note. Does anyone want to go before me though? No, okay. Can you just remind me, how many keys is the hotel room?
The total number? 137. Yeah.
130. I remember it changed, but yeah. Okay, 137. And then I guess I'm wondering, since it seemed in the staff report that only visitors and their guests will be using the roof, is that correct?
For the most part, although,
other than events.
If they have an event and there's invitees of guests who want to come to the event, they all have to be they have to be part of an event. It's even for an event, it's not open to the public.
How is that monitored in a day-to-day? There's no event. If it's hotel visitors and their guests,
it's key card entry to get in there most of the time. Okay. So the public will not be able to access it. Key card entry at the elevator and yeah.
Okay. And then what is the typical use case scenario where someone is using the roof, they're a hotel guest, or they brought a friend over and they're consuming alcohol as well? Like, can you help me understand, since there's no bar up there?
There's a bar downstairs.
Yeah.
So, and there's no, this is all on-site consumption. So what we would anticipate would be, there's a bar downstairs, guests would buy drinks. They'd be able to take those drinks up to the roof the same way they'd be able to take them anywhere else on the premises.
And no one would be taking orders and bringing them upstairs to them?
Like with room service?
Room service or whatever you want to call it. Someone that's on staff that would be, asking them if they want a drink order and then bringing the drink up. There are other properties that do that.
Yeah, I don't know that that's been ruled out, but it's not currently part of the operational plan, but I don't think it's been ruled out as an option.
Okay.
Yep.
Anyone else have questions before public comment? Commissioner Hoopengarner?
Yes, thank you. Just for the numbers, it's 137 rooms and how many parking spaces?
139, but it is 100% valet, so they can pack the spaces
They can block
in there. And
yeah.
just so we do have our parking consultant, LAZ is our parking consultant and parking operator, and they're here as well to answer questions. And we do have thoughtful answers on overflow parking, on staffing, and how that's going to be managed and handled within the condition of approval. And the condition of approval requires no queuing, and we have a plan for ensuring no queuing across just about any eventuality that might actually come up.
Okay. So to Chair Lombardi's question about, who's hosting events, and so if someone wanted to have a birthday party and they rented a hotel room and they could have a birthday party for 400 people, that would be required, though, that at least one of those persons be a hotel guest?
Yeah, the only people who can hold events would be guests. so,
Guests.
yeah.
Okay.
And it would be hotel managed. There's not going to be third-party promoters or anything like that. It's all managed through the hotel.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. So back to the queuing, what is the basis for the assumption that 30% of all the event guests will already be in the hotel? Because that dramatically impacts the number of vehicles you're not including in the queuing analysis. So I'm trying to understand what's the genesis of that.
It's a data-backed approach based on data that's provided by the Urban Land Institute. So it's just everything in the study is based on, it's all database.
So, but is it generic hotel or is it Sunset Strip Hotel data? Because they are very different.
I think the ULI data is generic data. They don't go and, we didn't go around to the different hotels and do any data collection at the hotels. We're relying on the ULI data.
I mean, because Mr. Schrager does own a hotel just a few feet down the road. That was my question.
They don't operate it though.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. The noise study is based upon there being sod on the roof. And now we know that it's not going to be sod, it's going to be plastic turf. So my question for the noise expert is, what does that do to the analysis? Because sod has a considerably different absorptive factor than a plastic grass.
It doesn't make a difference. It's the concrete underneath that it absorbs the sound. So if you were to sort of, have an inch of sod versus like, AstroTurf, which does have sublayers and is multi-layered, it's not going to impact.
It's none, okay.
Not at all, no.
Okay.
Are you sure?
Yes.
It sounds a little suspect to me. I mean, sod is considerably more
Well,
sound
I don't know
absorptive,
that the sod was even taken, the sod's not taken into account in the actual modeling. It takes into account the
Well, it
existence
said so
of a
in the
concrete
memo,
building.
that's why I asked.
It's assumed in the memo, I think, but it would not make any difference whatsoever with the ultimate analysis. It's the noise barrier, the concrete building, and the distance between that ultimately determines the noise dampening. No noise dampening credit is given for like grass or sod.
This is best addressed by the noise consultant.
It says here,
who's
the
co-consulting?
materiality is that the rooftop floor is defined as grass, as shown in the design presentation, and that's why I asked the question. That it's defined as grass, and that's part of their assumption in their methodology, and now it's not grass, so that's why I'm asking the question.
It doesn't change the outcome of the analysis.
Okay. And the noise consultant agrees with you?
Yeah, and she if you want to have her come up, and you want to hear it directly,
well,
take it from me.
that's the expert, so
Okay,
I'd like to hear it from the expert, so, okay, fine.
She's here to answer questions if needed.
Are you proposing the use of any pergolas, umbrellas, tents, et cetera, on the roof?
Not at this time, no.
Really?
I mean, if there's seating and umbrellas, I think we'd have to come back if we're going to propose anything that's going to be any kind of permanent cover.
I ask because I actually used to live at the White House, which is kitty corner from this project on DeLong Pre. And my unit had a balcony that looked out to the south. I couldn't use my balcony a large chunk of the year. It was either too cold and windy or too hot. And I had an overhang. So that space is going to be, at night, cold and windy. Yeah. And during the day, especially with AstroTurf, is going to be hot.
Yeah.
So I ask because I just see in the future a request for some sort of covering material, and that's why I'm asking, should it be addressed now?
It's a fair question, and I think it's something we've given some thought to. I think we'd come back if there was a request for covering. Yeah.
Okay. What rooftop construction is currently in process? Because one of the letters we received said that it's already in construction.
So there is permitted work occurring on some of the electrical systems, but none of the work that is associated with the activation is occurring right now. But there is, there's mechanical equipment there's the need to extend the elevator. So there is certain work that is occurring, but most of the work is interior, and all of the work that's been permitted is below the parapet.
Okay. Your noise study says that you met with the stakeholders, that the consultants met with the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders in that they met with?
Can you point me to where in the study you're talking about?
The introductory paragraph on the Trinity memo. Right at the beginning, it says this report was submitted to stakeholders, and a meeting took place on 11/6/24 to discuss. Based upon these discussions, edits were made to the acoustic model and analysis of hourly ambient noises. So my question is,
I believe when we were here last, some neighbors had reached out when we were here for the interior CUP, and there was some meetings with some of the individuals who had reached out who live in the neighborhood.
okay, so they were the stakeholders, were neighbors? That's my question.
Yeah. So the stakeholders were neighbors who live across the street down the way, and there was a couple individuals, I don't know if you remember when we were here a year ago, who came and spoke, and so we got their contact information and had discussions with them, just kind of about what their experience is, and that informed the analysis that Longman Lindsay did on the noise.
Great, that was my concern, is that when you said stakeholders, it included the neighbors. That's all.
Yeah, it was neighbors and it was certain business people as well.
Sure.
I think there was, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So my next noise question is that based upon the imagery provided in the page 8 of the Trinity document, it looks like a couple dozen people, but we're talking about 399 people. So did the study model include 399 people?
It did, yeah, included the full occupancy.
Okay.
And that's indicated in the report.
Okay, because it didn't seem to
I
look
don't know
like
that each one of these little dots represents an individual person.
Okay.
It was the locations based on the occupancy limits in each of those areas.
In each of the, okay. Because I'm personally having a difficult time understanding how 400 people, that's 3 times more people than fit in here, are going to only have a decibel level across the street at the same, 57 is normal conversation.
Yeah.
And when you have, let's say, 200 conversations going on at the same time at 1 o'clock in the morning in our very quiet neighborhoods where sound carries, that's why I'm trying to really understand the impact to the neighborhood of the 300 people, or excuse me, 400 people. And so you're saying that it does address the 400 people?
It does, yes. That's what the analysis showed, yeah.
Okay.
It's where there's a building in between. There's a noise barrier, and as you know, the adjacent buildings, there's a large grade separation. So it accounts for distance, it accounts for the grade separation, it accounts for the noise barrier, it accounts for the building. And when you consider all those factors, what the modeling showed was that those levels that maintain that plane. And this is, again, we're talking about the 57. We're talking about after 10 p.m. because the standard changes. Before 10 p.m., it's 5-hour ambient. After 10 p.m., it's not plainly audible. And this, the study actually takes a very conservative approach to plainly audible because it's 5 below ambient. And it showed that with that number of people, that noise level of 57 was achievable and would result in no plainly audible impact on the near sensitive receptor, which is the building on the other side of Sweetser is actually the closest.
Again, I used to live right there, and it used to be the St. James. Now the Tower Hotel has that back patio, just very similar to yours. In fact, it's the same elevation, and the noise was unbelievable. I was fortunate, I lived on the other side of the building, but my neighbors never slept. Right. So this is the reason I'm asking these questions.
And this is an enforceable limit that we're agreeing to. So were there to be issues, code enforcement would be fully empowered to come and address those issues.
Okay. Yep. I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Of course.
I'm sorry, I have just one question. I saw the memo with the section which includes the sound barrier, the glass sound barrier. So that's calling out the roof deck at 34 feet 8 in the detail number 1 on the plan, but the elevation I saw up in the staff report, and then I think also in the drawings, doesn't actually show the sound barrier as part of the building elevation. So I'm curious what HPC looked at, and did they review and approve it with that elevation?
The technical drawings in your package were provided to HPC, and it is depicted in the renderings.
I don't see it in this rendering.
So I'm not sure which one you're looking at. Hold on, let me...
Well, there's no page number, so I probably can't help you, but it's this one. It's not in the main rendering. But I was wondering about the elevation more than the rendering.
19 and 20 are the renderings, I think. Or
I don't know
the
where you
page is between 20 and 21.
I was gonna say, I have no idea where you got your page numbers from.
So if you look at 17, showing the exterior elevations, you can see the glass opaque noise wall there. So it is depicted in the elevations. It was depicted, we also included that detail. The detailed construction drawings were included in the package that was provided to Historic Preservation.
Okay, it's just not on the enlarged elevation, I see.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Of course.
I'm sorry, Chair, there was one more question.
Okay.
Regarding the newest drawings that were given to us today.
Mm-hmm.
On page, and if you could pull it up, it would probably be helpful. Page 1029. With the proposed roof deck sound barriers and the overall deck section detail.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can put it on the screen so everybody can see.
Yeah, staff. I don't know if we have that in our set.
So my question is, your landscape design is proposing to have common myrtle planted all around all the edges of the AstroTurf, right up against the glass wall. And I'm trying to understand practically how that's going to work. You're putting soil and plants right up against the glass barriers all the way around the building.
There's a separation between the edge of the landscaping and the barrier. It doesn't go up to the barrier. There's a...
It's not in the rendering, that's why I'm asking. Or in the section detail, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, and these are taken from the project's construction set of drawings, because as you know, there are detailed construction drawings submitted, so we weren't asked to provide a plan set. But no, it doesn't. You couldn't put the soil and sod up against a noise wall. You couldn't do that, and this project doesn't do that.
Hence my question, because that's not what's here, so that's why I'm asking.
Well, no, the landscape is not depicted on this set. This is just showing the construction. So,
so Doug, if you zoom in the bottom right corner. So off to the left, you've got your geofoam, you've got your rigid foam, et cetera, but on the, whoops. Right, okay, so if you zoom on the right corner over there, well, that whole section. We got a terrible lag here, is that it? Because you've rendered all of the other, in your section, you've got all of the drawings of all the other, barriers, but you're saying there's an additional barrier in front of the glass wall?
I'm not sure. My point is that the landscaping doesn't go right up to the glass wall. There's a separation between where the landscaping is and the construction of the wall.
And how tall and what is it?
How tall is the landscaping at that point?
Well, the barrier. It's not on the
barrier's
drawings.
6 feet tall.
For the landscaping?
No, we're talking about the noise barrier, aren't we?
No. I'm talking about, if you look at that glass wall all the way to the right, sorry, Doug, go the other way, yeah, right. So there's your glass wall.
Yes.
Okay. In your drawings, you have plantings all the way around, all the lawns, all the way along all of the glass wall. But there's nothing on these plans that shows how that's being done vis-a-vis the glass wall.
So
it just says there's the the pediment, and then bam, there's glass. There's nothing there.
Yeah, this particular drawing does not show the landscaping relative to the glass wall. And if the question is how...
It's not about the landscaping, it's about the barriers that are part of the construction
Right.
that aren't here.
Yeah, we have our landscape architect
Okay,
here
yeah.
who might be able to answer the question, because maybe I'm just not picking up on, yeah.
If you look right here where Doug has got this, you see you've got these elevations under your mechanical screen walls. You've got these walls where you're having protection of the soil on the back side.
Right.
But my question is on the glass side, what is there? Because there's nothing in these section details.
First of all, I want to apologize for having the City of Los Angeles listed in my drawings for City of West Hollywood, so I apologize for that. My name is Tim Grubbs, and my company is Communitas Design, and so we're the landscape architects of record. For the application of the planters adjacent to the wall, we have steel edges from Tile Tech that frame all of our planters. On the one side, it's going to be curvilinear. On this side, it's just going to be a straight edge. It's 8 inches tall. And the mounding of the soil goes up with the geofoam and back down to the edge. So there's that separation between the sound barrier wall and the planters.
Okay, so the 8-inch steel is X inches away from the glass wall.
Yes.
That was my question.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one more question. Because this all came in so late, so I had no time to react until today. But in the lighting fixture schedule, what is the color temperature of the lighting? It's very hard to read, but I see some ordering codes. Okay, well, I'll say I see 2,700 on some, but not others.
Yeah,
If you don't have an answer, that's okay.
There's a fixture schedule there, so all of the different...
Yeah, it
intensities are
doesn't say what it is. You can guess from some of the codes. Okay.
We could follow up on that point.
Any other questions? Okay, so then we will move on to public comments. So I will open the public comment portion of the hearing. All questions and comments on this matter are to be directed to the commission and not to the audience. And are we going to start in the room?
Yeah, we're going to start in the Zoom room. If there is anybody else in Zoom that would like to participate, please star 9 for us or use the raise hand feature, and we'll take our first caller.
Good evening. Our first public speaker is Jordan. If you'd like to press star 6 to unmute, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. My name is Jordan Sisson. I'm a C4 attorney representing United Here Local 11. My client has some concerns regarding the noise impacts from drunk crowds partying on the rooftop. Alcohol on the rooftop is very different than alcohol on the ground floor, which already includes the nightclub, bar, and pool area. Noise issues with the former Standard Hotel were not uncommon. Here, this new hotel has not even opened. Has already got changes to its prior alcohol permits.
Jordan, I'm so sorry. We're having a hard time hearing you. If you could just put your phone a little bit away from the speaker so we can hear you clearly. Thank you.
Is this better?
Can you speak for a few seconds so I could evaluate?
Yes, check 1, check 2. Sound okay?
Maybe a little bit further away from the telephone? Let's try again. Are you using a headset?
No, I am not. How about now? Is it too loud or not loud enough?
We're getting an echo, so it's a little difficult to understand, and you're speaking really fast. Can we try one more time, please?
Yes. Is this better?
Yes.
Great. In my limited time, I want to hit just 3 quick points. One, we question the assumption that the rooftop will not become open to the public or have regular alcohol service for drunk parties. None of the conditions prevent access from the public, such as nightclub guests wanting to take the party upstairs to the rooftop. Nothing prevents a keyed entrance from being unlocked or the hotel providing access to other guests. Even without a permanent bar, the rooftop still can easily become a hotspot for drunk crowds. It's not unreasonable to assume that crowds will get drinks not from just downstairs, but also through a hotel service, which you heard is not ruled out. So too, what stops a rolled up bar, claiming to be a temporary for events, becomes routinely staged up there. Here, the real possibility is that there would be 400 young adults drinking and partying on the rooftop as part of the hotel's activation. Second, we question the adequacy of the noise study. Specifically, it is unclear if the noise study speaking at louder levels due to lumbar effects. This is well documented, and crowds that are drunk, young, and at nightclubs tend to speak louder. CEQA documents typically address this. Unfortunately, the noise study does not clearly identify what speech levels, whether or not they consider they're drunk, whether or not there's 390 folks. Lastly, we want to question the effectiveness of the enforcement condition. As you heard, there's a condition 5.2 regarding a decibel level. However, there is no active noise monitoring. And as the city knows, just like Hollywood and downtown LA, party hotels and rooftop areas are legion about noise complaints. In the end, we respectfully request you to consider these issues before approving the project. For example, you may want to consider a revised noise study that accounts for large party crowds, including lumbar effects, as well as bass frequency, which is not uncommon from amplified music. Second, you may want to consider other...
I'm sorry, but whoever's the light over there is really making it hard for me right now. I'm sorry to interrupt, but can whoever's over there please turn off that light? It's disrupting us over here.
Until the hotel's actually operational, so that they have an established track record to see how well they handle noise. Furthermore, you may want to consider noise complaints from the other Mr. Schrager's hotel properties. I thank you for your time and hope you consider this.
Thank you, Jordan. If there's anybody on Zoom who'd like to make a public comment, please raise your hand by pressing *9. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to chambers for our next public comment. Our first public speaker will be Keaton J. Ross. Will be followed by David Stuckey. And you will have 3 minutes. No Keaton? David Stuckey? You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and city of residence.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is David Stuckey. I am both a resident and worker here in West Hollywood. I am concerned about potential noise impacts from this project, which would allow more than 9,000 square feet of alcohol service to the proposed rooftop lawn. Hotel rooftop noise is a common problem, especially where you have large crowds of young adults, amplified music, and regular alcohol service in the late evenings. These types of groups can be very loud, much louder than your typical crowds. I suggest you take a walk down Sunset Boulevard near the Mondrian on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday evening to experience that yourself. It seems pretty reasonable that some folks partying downstairs at the nightclub or pool bar may wish to take the party to the rooftop. I think the city should fully consider the possible noise impacts of nearly 400 young adults partying on the rooftop, which is so close to the residents and other businesses. The city may also want to consider conditions, adding other conditions that can help improve response to any future noise complaints. Thank you for your time. But before approving the project, I think the city should consider a worst-case scenario where you may have close to 400 young adults partying loudly on the rooftop. Similarly, the city may want to consider adding real-time noise monitors to help code enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Kathy Blavis. Kathy will be followed by Stephanie Harker.
Good evening, Kathy Blavis, City of West Hollywood.
First of all, I was particularly impressed during the presentation to the Historic Preservation Commission when it was noted that the Ian Schrager Company made the hotel's purchase contingent upon securing its historic designation. If only more developers showed that level of foresight and respect for preservation. The proposed renovations themselves are thoughtful and respectful to the character and the historic hotel, reinforcing the architectural and cultural significance. Additionally, the fact that Steve Luffman, the individual who played a pivotal role in saving the hotel, is in full support of this project speaks volumes about its integrity and the alignment of the preservation values. That being said, regarding various concerns with the rooftop in particular and the noise, I have confidence that a thoughtful compromise can be reached, one that respects the needs of the owner, enhances the experience for the hotel guests, and is considerate of the surrounding neighbors. I'm in support of this project, and this won't be the first project, rooftop on Sunset Boulevard, that creates noise. I don't know why they should be singled out to not at least find ways to mediate that. And on a personal note, I just want to thank Commissioner Hoopengarner for your thoughtful, thorough questions you posed during this meeting. Your attention to detail and genuine interest in understanding the nuances of the project were not only evident, but also deeply appreciated by this stakeholder. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie Harker, and it will be followed by our last speaker, Victor Omolchenko.
Good evening again, Stephanie Harker, City of West Hollywood. I definitely want to applaud the developer or redeveloper of the Standard, the original Thunderbird. I was just recently reading the section of the municipal code that pertains to historic preservation and how encroaching development is taking away our heritage and those wonderful historical sites. This project obviously is continuing on trying to preserve that look, and as we're having such trouble along Sunset now, and now the recently abandoned Viper Room project, but it's just so refreshing to feel like there are many in the community who wish to retain the charm and the culture and the history of Sunset Strip. It's famous throughout the world, and the fact that this particular developer and Steve Luffman at the head of trying to save this, it really bodes well for us as a community and for us as residents to have these things preserved with such care. And I'm sure you can work out the other issues with the noise and the rooftop sounds and things. Just have quiet parties or have pot parties. They can all mellow out. Anyway, I did want to step up and say thank you to the developers, and I hope the commission will move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last speaker will be Victor Omolchenko.
Victor Omolchenko, longtime West Hollywood resident. This little stretch, this one block on the south side of Sunset Boulevard, we have 3 historic buildings in a row. I'm just going to do a quick thing on this. We have what was called the former St. James Hotel. Now it's the Sunset Tower. That's a historic resource in our city. We have the William S. Hart Park Colonial Revival Home in Hart Park. That's a historic resource. And we have this, the Standard Hotel, which had started as the Thunderbird Inn, as a historic resource. 3 in a row. It's wonderful. Wouldn't it be wonderful if across the street, the Shore family, who's going to make a lot of money with the billboard that it's getting, wouldn't it have been wonderful if that family of the Comedy Store, they own the Comedy Store, if only they could have joined the litany, the grouping of historic buildings along our iconic Sunset Boulevard. That said, Speaking on behalf of the West Hollywood Preservation Alliance, we're so pleased to support the renovation of the Standard Hotel. It is a landmark of mid-century architectural excellence. This extensive update will preserve the building's distinctive character while breathing new life into its historic space. As a designated cultural resource, the Standard Hotel has undergone careful review by the city's Historic Preservation Commission, which unanimously recommended approval of a certificate of appropriateness for the renovation. Now the WHPA urges you, our Planning Commission, to grant its final approval, ensuring that this iconic property will continue to serve the community while maintaining its architectural integrity. When the property was designated as a local cultural resource in 2022, it was recognized for retaining all 7 aspects of historic integrity as defined by the U.S. Secretary of the Interior Standards for Historic Preservation. It was already considered a historic resource by the state, and the new owners have now expressed their intent to seek federal recognition on the National Register of Historic Places. If that's successful, this would make the Standard Hotel a rare historic trifecta in our city. It would be acknowledged at the local, state, and federal levels, and it would be eligible for those delicious, valuable tax credits to maintain it. The WHPA commends the owners' commitment to preserving West Hollywood's architectural heritage and looks forward to seeing the Standard Hotel reopen its doors, continuing its legacy as a cultural and historical landmark and contributing to West Hollywood's economy, because it is about jobs and it's about the dinero, the dengue, the pieniędzy, the money. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Victor. And Chair, before I send it back to you, we did receive one correspondence that came in after the deadline. It was from the West Hollywood Preservation Alliance, and they are pleased to support the renovation of the Standard Hotel at 8300 Sunset Boulevard. So this correspondence will be placed into the permanent file for the record.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to make a rebuttal? And if so, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. Andrew Brady on behalf of the project applicant. We do appreciate positive remarks from the historic community. This is a great labor of love on the part of Ian Traeger Corporation, preserving this historic building, like I said, maintaining its historic form. We are appreciative and understand the concerns about noise. We just want to be very clear. Everything, every detail, everything down to the design, the function. This is a boutique hotel. This is not going to be a party hotel. There's enough party hotels on the Strip. This is a public, and this is not the standard. This is a public brand hotel oriented towards business travelers and professionals. The way, everything down to the design of the roof, the way it's set up, the way that it is controlled entry, not just anybody from downstairs can go up there. This is not going to be a party roof. It's not going to be a party hotel. That's not part of the design. That's not part of the function. That is not going to be how this hotel operates. Nonetheless, as indicated before, we have committed ourselves to a very strict and enforceable condition of approval that we believe with the thoughtful design, with the work with some of the preeminent noise consultants in the field, we are going to comply with these standards, and we will continue to work with the city and partner with the city in ensuring that those standards are met over time and that the legitimate concerns of the community are addressed. So, thank you.
Okay. I'll now close the public comment portion of this hearing. Any more questions of staff or deliberations? Questions?
Question.
Okay, Commissioner Solomon.
For staff, and then maybe one for the applicant. One of the written public comments mentions that at the Andaz Hotel, Andaz, I never know how to pronounce it, they receive a written notification of events that take place on the roof. Was that a condition of approval for that? Does that happen because of any sort of condition or code, or is...
I'm sorry, who receives a written notice?
Nearby residents.
Oh,
Or at least that's what I infer from the comment.
I see. I am not aware of that being a condition on that CUP, but it certainly might be. I don't know.
Okay. And then my second question is for staff, but possibly for the applicant as well. Is this property subject to, is there a Mills Act agreement in place for it?
There currently is not a Mills Act agreement with this property.
And if the applicant is willing, do you know if there's any plans to pursue one?
Not at this time. The projector has pursued federal tax credits, and it has preliminarily been awarded those credits. So it is getting tax relief from the federal government. There's not a plan at this time to go under the Mills Act, which you know is a local property tax, but who knows what the future will bring with that. Yep.
Thanks. That's all my questions.
Commissioner Jones, and then Commissioner Hoopengarner.
I just want to clarify that as written, events will be allowed 365 days. Special events, only 16 days, but regular events could be held every night, correct?
As part of the normal operations of the hotel, that is correct.
Okay, and all of those events could have up to 399 people. Because the 399 is not in any way specific to a special event permit, it's just the load
is the maximum
rating for
occupancy.
the roof, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Condition 5.2, noise generated, use of amplified sound, not to exceed 71 dBAs, 57 dBAs. It doesn't say as measured where. Back to our conversation about what's the noise level at the receptor sites versus the noise being generated from the site itself. Based on what you said to me, this 71 and 57 is from the roof, the noise on the roof itself. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Because that's not stated here, and when it comes to code enforcement, I think they need kind of specificity about where it's measured, correct?
That is correct. So if I can clarify, this condition, let me back up. The purpose of the sound study was really to benefit the applicant in determining what the maximum noise levels would be, because the city's noise control ordinance does not establish a numerical threshold. The noise ordinance just basically states that noise, generated by a source cannot be plainly audible within 25 feet of a residential property. And so to help the applicant have a better understanding of what does plainly audible mean, they conducted this noise study to help them make that determination so that they would have a better idea of how loud the speakers and the human activity generated at the roof, how loud that can be in order to meet the definition of not being plainly audible at the residential properties.
Agreed, and hence, you need a measurement in order to enforce it. Otherwise, it's just an objective, a subjective, hey, it's loud to me, but it's not to you. I mean, that all depends on your hearing capabilities.
I realize that I could be slipping into deliberation, but I just want to point out that it says the noise generated by the use of amplified sound or music and human activity on the rooftop deck shall not exceed. So I read that as anywhere, anytime, anywhere on that deck, nothing goes above that level if someone were to go and check it. So it seems like a sound requirement. I understand it, I guess is what I'm saying.
I'm just really concerned that that's very clear to everybody, that that's where it's measured and not at some receptor site.
Yeah, I mean, it says human activity on the rooftop deck shall not exceed.
We can add language to that condition if it makes it more clear to you that it, as measured, say, instead of on the rooftop deck, as measured on the rooftop deck.
I love it.
Something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, 5.4, back to enforceability. And this just says precautions shall be taken. It doesn't really say anything in terms of what is allowed and what isn't allowed. I mean, if someone called code enforcement and pointed to this 5.4, what would code enforcement read and what would they have to do? I mean, it says precautions shall be taken. It doesn't, it doesn't really say anything.
This is a sort of an additive condition to what the project is currently proposing as mitigation measures to contain sound. But I think the important requirement in 5.4 is that this project and its operation has to comply with the noise ordinance.
That's kind of a given. I mean, everybody has to comply with the ordinances. So I'm not sure what this adds, I guess.
I think it's pointing it's something to point to at least,
Yeah.
as a point of reference.
It ties that requirement back to the CUP. So if it becomes problematic, it can be grounds for revocation. That's why it's there.
And hence 5.5. Okay, thank you.
Are we moving into deliberation, or do we have questions? Okay, would anyone like to speak first? Okay, the applicant would like to say something. We're about to start deliberation. What would you like to add?
Andrew Brady on behalf of the applicant. With respect to the technical change, I think we'd request that any measurements be taken on the project side of the noise barrier, the interior side, because if, there's two people talking on the opposite side and you hold up a sound barrier to their mouth, that's going to be different than it is measured on the roof, but for the sake of meeting the standard, we request that if there is a location of measurement, it be on the roof side of the noise barrier.
On the roof side?
On the edge of the...
On the edge?
Yeah, where the noise wall is, on the project, the roof deck side of that. Not on the opposite side of the noise barrier, but on the side of the noise barrier where the gathering area is located.
I'm confused. Where?
The location at the perimeter, at the edge, on the project side of the noise barrier would be the request just for clarity and specificity. If there's going to be a location where you have to measure it, to be on the roof, but at the perimeter.
Being up against the sound wall.
Up against the sound wall, yeah. On the interior side, though, so you're not getting the advantage of the sound wall. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be because that's what we're saying here, that it's on the roof, the noise is not to exceed X.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be the request for the modification. Okay, thank you.
I'd be curious historically what we've done, but I know that might not be easy information. Always look for, are we setting a new precedent here? Or are we being consistent?
If you're asking me,
yeah, maybe.
we typically don't have a condition such as this. Usually we rely on the noise ordinance, which it has the plainly audible standard. This, again, like Doug mentioned, is really just to provide sort of guardrails so that the applicant knows what would, so that they have a way to kind of gauge that from the source as to what was deemed acceptable in the modeling. Even with that, if it's plainly audible, we will still be out there regulating it. But yeah, so I don't think that there's a really set precedent for this type of condition or where that measurement is taken. But I think it's perfectly acceptable to do it at the perimeter as requested.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or?
Just
okay, Commissioner.
One, do you have a question? One of the, I think the public speakers mentioned something about having an on-site measuring device. I don't think we've ever done that, at least not in my tenure. We've never done that before. I don't know what the cost of that would be. I know that in the past we've had a lot of problems with code enforcement, like with catch and everything, they would call, and by the time code enforcement got there, and then and whereas if there was a device that said, here's what it is, the applicant would have a thing that said, hey, it's getting too loud, go do something, and code enforcement would have a thing that said, hey, it was too loud. I'm just wondering, is that I don't think we've ever done it before, and is it financially feasible? Is it technically feasible? Just asking.
It is not consistent with the noise ordinance. So I think in order to start doing that kind of enforcement or that kind of measurement, we would need to revisit what the noise ordinance is, which is not in the Planning Commission's purview, I will just advise. But yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I know that the subjective nature of how we enforce it has
suboptimal
raised questions. However, I will say that, over time, most of the areas that we've talked about over the years here in this room have been able to get a handle on the situation. So, I think that at the end of the day, it generally works, even if it isn't as prescriptive or as objective as we might want to see.
I guess the reason I'm asking my question is that you used the right words, over time. And it's what the neighbors will be subjected to. It's during that over time period that is concerning to me.
And right, and we'll be able to gauge that because we have a condition that it will come back to for review, and the applicant knows that. So I think it's in everybody's interest that they make sure that they keep, if it does happen, that they are able to fix that issue right away.
Okay.
Commissioner Jones, would you like to speak?
Sure.
And we're going to move into deliberation now.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, sure.
Okay.
So, first of all, I want to say that it is rare that an applicant is as well prepared as this team was. I think Commissioner Hoopengarner asked some very fair questions, and it is pretty anomalous that you would have the team that you have here, landscape architect, a noise consultant, all on hand to answer those questions. I think it speaks to my confidence in, Ian Trigger I know he's the owner, but as the operators of the property and the affiliations that it has. I'm very much in support of the project. I'm really happy it's going to be activated again as a space. I'm very glad that it was designated. I'm also glad that there was some talk of this being like a 5-story building at one point, and I'm just gonna say that I'm personally happy that it's not. I think it pays a great homage to kind of the space and the original spirit of the building. And I also, we need people in hotels on Sunset Boulevard right now. It's just a fact. I mean, there are parts of the Strip that are suffering right now. And the sooner we can get people there, in my opinion, the better. I do have a little bit of concern about the noise, and I want to say too to the community that I'm as a person with misophonia, definitely understand not wanting to hear loud noise. I also want to temper that with the fact that we live off the Sunset Strip. I mean, I do. I live 3 buildings down on Laurel. It's not technically the Strip, but Laugh Factory. There's lots of things happening up there at the time. I can hear Hyde Nightclub, which is a 5-minute walk from my apartment, on weekend nights. It's just kind of part of living on the Sunset Strip. There are going to be ambulances and helicopters and rock bands and loud young people. That's what it is. That being said, and again, given how prepared the applicant was and how thorough the presentation was, I don't want to assume, but my guess is that there is a way that you have for handling complaints in the neighborhood, and you clearly have been communicating with people in the neighborhood and took it upon yourself to contact people who were at the meeting who had expressed concerns. Most people don't do that. So again, I think it reflects well on you. I'm in support of the project. I'm in support of the change proposed for the measurement, if the rest of the commission feels that it's necessary and is in agreement. But I am inclined to support the project. Those are my comments.
Vice Chair Gregoire.
Yeah, I support staff's recommendation. I don't have any changes to propose. Obviously, the big concern of the neighbors to the north, up the hill, and to the south is the noise. But I was pleased to see condition 5.5, as pointed out by the director, that does say that the commission will review this 3, 6, and 9 months following the commencement of the rooftop deck use to determine if any modifications need to be made. My instinct says it will be fine, but if there are events up there and there are complaints, we have a mechanism here to address them at the time, and I think that's a great condition, and with that, I would fully support staff's recommendation.
Commissioner Hoopengartner.
So again, I used to live right here. I love this part of the Strip. That it's wonderful that we're going to keep this hotel in its original condition, and activate it and bring excitement back to the space. I love all those things. Okay. My only concern is the noise and it's the sound carrying. And so I guess I do have kind of a question for the applicant, because you said that Mr. Schrager doesn't operate the addition. Is the intention that this building would be operated by Mr. Schrager? Okay, yes, because we're all making that assumption that you are going to be operating it and with these understandings and these guidelines, and you're not going to be turning it over to someone who doesn't have the same understandings. So I think that's important to me in terms of how this is going to be operated. We are a neighborhood, and yes, it is the Sunset Strip. We all have lived and still live within waving distance of the Sunset Strip, and that's great until it becomes just excessive all night, every night. And that's my personal concern, and I think the neighbor's concern. And it only takes a couple nights in a row until you've got an unhappy neighborhood, and that's not really what anybody wants. And that would be my biggest concern. If I were to make any changes to the resolution, and yes, Vice Chair Gregoire, I agree that condition 5.5 with the review periods is great. But I'm wondering, because we've done this in the past, if we shouldn't insert the word rooftop deck events. Because I can see a situation where the rooftop deck is activated and guests are showing up, but no events have been held. And then we have our 3-month review, but there haven't been any events, which are really, I think, the concern that everybody has. So I don't know what my colleagues think about that, because we had a situation, I think it was even on this project with the pool deck, it was about it being activated before the reviews happened. I don't know if it was this project or another one. So that would be my only maybe suggestion in terms of that 3-month clock starts after events.
Can I ask a question, just a clarifying question about that? Is there a reason why we wouldn't keep the language as is? Because if just people on the roof is too
bad.
loud,
No, you're right. I agree.
That would be the baseline threshold.
No, I think both conditions apply. So I'm just brainstorming about ways to address both situations. You're right.
Right.
That we could just have a whole bunch of rowdy hotel guests that are a problem, and the 3-month review would be appropriate.
Right, right.
So just trying to figure out how to address the fact that they may not kick off their first events until we're halfway through the review period, and then we don't have a review period for it. So that was my only concern.
Okay, understood.
So I think this is a great, improvement to the property, to the Strip. I think it's a great way to activate it, and I'm looking forward to it. I just hope that the applicant can really work on the sound. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Carvalero.
Thank you, Chair. I feel like this building comes with a bit of a bad history when it was the standard. I mean, I remember, those pool parties, they were noisy, but this new iteration of the hotel, presented as a business hotel and given what the applicant has presented, kind of tempers, my fear that it will become the standard again. So, and I see the guardrails in place that we've issued to all other hotels with rooftop situations in West Hollywood. So I hear it, but I think I hear the fear, I understand it, but I think that seems to be on the wake of what it used to be. And we need to give this operator a chance. It's a great, like everyone said, an amazing, a building on Sunset Boulevard with its own history. The new landscaping, this sort of Regency approach gives the building a beautiful setting. I think the rooftop, I understand 399 people, it's a lot. And we have the sound tests in place over 3, 6, 9 months. Maybe we could extend it to a year to make sure we capture some special events. But I'm in favor of this project as it's presented by the staff report.
Thank you. Commissioner Solomon?
Thank you. It seems like in the last few years, the strategy to ensure the longevity of historic buildings on Sunset, whether they're designated historic or not, to Victor's earlier point, has just been put a billboard on it. And that's a strategy and it's a revenue generating strategy, but I am encouraged to see an applicant come forward that has a different, more tasteful strategy to activate a new space in the building to ensure its commercial success so that it can stay and remain a vibrant business and a cultural resource. To Commissioner Jones' earlier point, I do appreciate the all hands on deck approach that the applicant has taken and that the whole team is here. I think that everyone is, I don't know if concerned is the right word, but everyone is aware of the potential of a noise issue. And the applicant has gone above and beyond to hold themselves accountable to a higher and more defined standard than what the West Hollywood noise ordinance is. And with condition 5.5, that it comes back to us 3 times, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. I would hope that if there is anything that isn't working, we do have a chance to right the ship on it. So I appreciate, again, the time that the applicant has put forward in this project. Commissioner Hoopengarner gave it to you as well as I've ever seen on the technical analysis. And I think the project's better for it. I agree with your one point of having a specific designation about where they should measure the sound from. To your second point, I think that roof space use is a broad and encompassing enough term that I would use the word use rather than events. If they haven't had events by 6 and 9 months, I would think that their events manager would probably be looking for a new position soon. So I will support this project whenever someone makes a motion to do so. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Matos?
I'll keep my remarks brief. Thank you, Chair. Just want to thank the applicant for a thorough presentation and thank each and every member of the public that came out to voice an opinion and to be part of the public process on this item. I am a resident of the Sunset Strip. It does routinely get noisy. I don't live a waving distance, I live on it. It does get noisy. It's part of kind of the character of the neighborhood, in my opinion. If it gets too noisy, I shut my windows and it's just fine. I do understand the concerns. I think that the resolution addresses a lot of the concerns that have been raised, and so does the municipal code. If you look at the municipal code, it's very thorough. It gives the city an avenue to take decisive administrative action against a bad operator. So for those reasons, While I understand and appreciate the concerns that have been raised by members of the public, I will be supporting this item tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. Well, I'll just give a couple of really quick thoughts. I'll be brief here. I am really excited to see this project move forward and to see a considerate restoration of this historic property. Honestly, I did have some questions and concerns about the operations, just the ability to answer some of my questions. I understand a lot of this still in the work, functionality of the premise as described for the rooftop. And I do hope the applicant can sort that out. Obviously, there's a full team here working on that, and I know that it's still early on. So, as a brand and a project, I have full confidence that you all will do that. Maintaining Sunset Strip and ensuring that there's vitality there, that we have hotels, we have activity, I think is very important. And look, I always like to look at projects and consider what else could be there. And there potentially is a scenario where this historic building had extra, hotel uses higher up, and maybe that had a rooftop on it too. So, all being said, I think this is manageable. There's measures in place, and I think it's in everyone's interest, both the applicants and the community, to find a way to make it work. And I think that that's handled in the conditions. So I'm prepared to support this item. I know there may be some nuance to the resolution, but I'd be ready if someone were to make a motion. And now everyone goes quiet.
Guys, when you make a motion, say out loud, I want to make a motion, because everyone's screen is a little bit different.
Oh, mine says my name, and that's it.
Mine says my name.
Okay.
Okay, I'm actually showing Commissioner Hoopengarner. Guy has the electronic vote. If someone wants to make a second, if it shows.
Yeah, would you like to state the motion?
I move to approve the staff report. And I would ask my colleagues if there's an interest, as was discussed, about putting the applicant's request that the sound measurement be at the sound wall.
I'm okay with it, but I'm going to do a straw poll.
There's agreement from the applicant on that item?
So if you give us a second, we can read that into the record. And Commissioner Hoopengarner, so that was the one change, is the applicant's request to, based on staff's recommendation on 5.2.
5.2 would read, as measured at the interior of the sound wall.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay?
Yep.
Lovely. That is my motion.
I will second.
Okay, seconded by the vice chair. My screen doesn't say much here, so taking the verbal.
And the motion passes unanimous with 7 ayes. We do have an appeal process for this item. The resolution number PC 251606, the Planning Commission just approved for the property located at 8300 Sunset Boulevard, memorializes the Commission's final action on this matter. This action is subject to appeal to the City Council. Appeals must be submitted within 10 calendar days from this date to the City Clerk's office. Appeals must be in writing and accompanied by the required fees. The City Clerk's office can provide appeal forms and information about waiver of fees. The appeal deadline is Monday, June 16th, 2025 at 5 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Item number 11, new business. We have no items. 12, unfinished business, no items. Also, item number 13, excluded consent calendar. We have none. That brings us to item number 14. And if everyone could please exit quietly, we would appreciate that, because now we have an item that we're actually going to talk about. So when we're ready, 14A, Planning Manager's Update. Please, if you can all exit quietly. Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners and Chair Lombardi. Simon Qureshi, as I was just introduced, new planning manager for the current and historic preservation. Glad to be here for the first meeting here. So I'll go through the upcoming agenda or the items that are listed for the Planning Commission. Okay, so for the Planning Commission, the next meeting scheduled is for July 17th. And we have, sorry about that. So we have one public hearing item, 8948 Santa Monica Boulevard, and then an appeal item, which is also a public hearing, 8451 Melrose Avenue. Those are the two items for July 17th meeting. And then for August 7th, that would be the follow-up meeting of the Planning Commission. There will be special business of election of chair and vice chair. We will also have swearing in of a new commissioner, Jesse Harris. And then we also have a few public hearings listed. The one is 9255 Sunset Boulevard. It's a conditional use permit for a restaurant, bar, and nightclub. Second public hearing is for a billboard on 9200 Sunset Boulevard. And then we have a consent item as well, 1130 North La Brea Avenue. That's the staff's update on Total Wines and More project. And one more public hearing for 1238 North Formosa Avenue, which is a subdivision. So those are the 7 items currently scheduled for August 7th.
Thank you. I have a question. I was trying to hear July 17th, the 8948 Santa Monica Boulevard and 9450 Melrose Avenue. It's getting late. I don't remember where those are. Are those housing projects or what are those?
The 8948 Santa Monica Boulevard is Roosterfish at Santa Monica and Robertson. And 8451 Melrose is a restaurant. And it's an appeal of a use of a rooftop.
Can I ask, I saw David's email and it said that that was a Housing Accountability Act item on Roosterfish, so I was a little confused.
I think that was probably just an error in the order, yes.
It's like,
okay.
You're going to get your housing.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to live in a bar.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other, I guess there's also subcommittees.
Yes, any other questions on the Planning Commission? Yes.
I was just going
Commissioner
to say, I think that I'll be absent on September 18th. I have a company retreat. And I see it's not on David's calendar yet, but I wanted to kind of put it out there.
Okay, moving on to subcommittees. So the Long Range Planning Project Subcommittee, the next meeting is July 17th. It's for a zone text amendment for parking regulations, which is because of the Agenda Bill 894 and AB 1317. So that one is scheduled for July 17th, and no items currently are identified for the August meeting, which is August 21st. For the Design Review Subcommittee, the next project going to that body is on June 12th. It's for the 1000 North La Brea project, which is a mixed-use project. And then after that, the meeting on June 26th, there are no items identified at this time. And then Sunset Arts and Advertising Subcommittee, their July 24th meeting has 9101 Sunset Boulevard billboard project listed for that project. So I'm sorry, for that date. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay. Item 15, public comment. Everyone has left. Almost everyone has left.
We do have one public comment for General Victor Olmachenko. Victor, you will have 3 minutes.
Good Good evening again, Victor Omolchenko. Chair Lombardi, at the last Planning Commission meeting, I watched it. I haven't been able to attend many of them. You sort of plaintively said, oh, maybe we'll have some public comment at the next meeting. And I guess you did have enough public comment tonight, and I think it was a very vigorous, interesting discussion. I did notice that you talked about an update to the housing element, that housing element which by 2019 got to have 33 units. Well, we are on our way to that with over 400, I understand. And as I understand the process, we do have a housing element approved by the state in which we have identified the parcels of land where we could put 3,933 units, but it is not a requirement that if we don't meet the 3,933, that we will lose our incorporation or our city or our jobs or our lives. So I'm happy that there is progress in that housing element. I am distressed with what happened with the Melrose Triangle project, kind of sold a bill of goods. The owner there is in jail, it's being refilled, and I'm really upset now after all these years of what you all worked on and the community worked on, the 8850 Sunset Boulevard project, which is now going into foreclosure, and the city entered into a development agreement for billboards and everything. It was a source of controversy over the years. It's interesting that the city approved the development agreement last August, and just 9 months later, oy vey, zug vey, it's in foreclosure. This makes me ask, what kind of due diligence is the city involved in with these developers like Silver Creek Investments, who bought up that whole Viper Room block that threw out a lot of neighborhood-serving businesses, only leaving a residue of the Viper Room and some others? It just makes me wonder, how do these things happen behind the scenes? What actually happened? The city approved it, the legal department looked at everything in August, and then by last month, it's in foreclosure. Are we all being schnookered? And then let's just go a little bit further west to the Hustler building, where we were promised the world-famous arts club by Gwyneth Paltrow, Charles Dickens, and all that kind of stuff. They have a new 10-year development agreement. And I remember that last year you were saying, well, maybe they could fix up the joint. It's all boarded up. Where is the artwork that the developer and owner of that Hustler building promised us? That west side of the Sunset Strip is looking like just monstrous, so close to Beverly Hills. But I want to end on a happy note to say that it looks like the eastern side of our iconic Sunset Strip is coming back to life, especially with what you decided tonight with the Standard Hotel joining the other two buildings on that block as historic resources. So I think we should look closely at who we go into bed with and ask whether these developers have financial stability before we enter into long-term development agreements. Thank you.
Thank you, and that is our last public speaker, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any items from commissioners? Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, thank you. First, I just want to apologize for missing the last meeting. I don't like missing them. I got really sick and I lost my voice. So didn't want to spread disease and wouldn't have been of much use to anybody anyway. So that is why I had to miss the last meeting. I was in bed and voiceless. I'm sure much to the delight of the people around me. In any case, I also wanted to, and also I know I've been sounding like I'm hacking up along. I'm fine. I think I have an allergy, but I promise none of you will be sick. I just want to set your mind at ease. I also just wanted to, he's not here. The applicant's representative for our first project tonight, DJ Moore's father, passed away earlier this week, and I just wanted to put it on the record. He actually flew back from the East Coast for this hearing tonight. So I just wanted to extend my condolences to his family, kind of on the record. DJ's presented lots of projects to us before, and just wanted to wish him and his family the best. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Then I will adjourn this meeting, and our next regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting will be held on Thursday, July 17th, 2025, here at Council Chambers at 6:30 p.m. And just to be clear, I said Thursday, July 17th. That means that the June 19th and the July 3rd meetings are canceled.
Yes, thank
So
you.
that is true. It is Thursday, July 17th is our next meeting, 6:30 p.m. Thank you.
To be ready once they transition to kindergarten. I want them to be able to share their wants, their needs, and for them to express themselves at every level in their lives.
Some people don't understand kids are very impressionable, and you don't ever have a second chance to make a first impression. So whenever we're at work, especially when you see children, we want to make sure that we take the time to let them know that they matter and that we're here for them. So even in a case of an emergency, the goal is for them to think of us as kind of their family. And this is our first opportunity to create that bond and that relationship.
West Hollywood has always been a welcoming space for all types of communities. We have a very diverse community here that welcomes all people, children, pets, everybody.